Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Have you ready, sir?
Okay, thank you. Good evening. This is the Town of Dayton Selectmen's regular meeting. Today is Wednesday, October 11th at 2023 at 6 o'clock p.m. This is a hybrid meeting via Zoom and in person at Old Town Hall, 1111 Somerset Avenue. The meeting ID to join the Zoom meeting is 863-6306-7892. The passcode is 872132, and the phone to call in is 309-205-3325. Public input may be provided using the following methods. Contact our office at Board of Selectmen at Dayton-ma.gov to provide input prior to the meeting, or via Zoom call in by phone at 309-205-3325. And it continually plays on Dayton Channel 9 and on YouTube at www.youtube.com/Town of Dayton. This meeting is also being recorded. The listing of matters are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. So we're going to have a call to order first, please.
Good evening. Leonard Hull is present.
Nicole Mello.
And Peter Karen. Can we please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? And right after we say the Pledge of Allegiance, we'd like everybody to continue standing because we've lost some neighbors and friends this week, and we're going to make an announcement about those. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Since our last meeting, following members of the Dayton community have passed. On September 22nd, Kenneth P. Ryan, 64, passed away at his home. He was a graduate of Dayton Rehoboth Regional High School. He was heavily involved in the Dayton Baseball League. He is survived by his children, Josh Rhines of Dayton and Keel Rhines, and his wife, Paige. His siblings, Michael D. Rhines, Kevin Rhines, and former Planning Board Chairman, Tim Rhines. Also passing, Gene P. Costa, passed away on October 2nd, 2023. He's survived by his wife, Judith, and his children, Deborah Duvalli of North Dayton, Richard Costa of North Dayton, and Kim Forbes. Also passing, Charles Strickland, passed on September 26th. He passed in Somerset, and he is survived by his wife, Marietta, and his children, Jesse, Brandon, and Corey Strickland of Dayton. We have a moment of silence and condolences to the families of these Dayton residents.
Thank you. Portion of the scheduled appointments are appointment for Christopher Reddy as a cemetery burial agent. Is Christopher Reddy here? Hi, Chris.
Good evening. Mr. Reddy has served this town in many capacities over the years, and I would at this time like to acknowledge his fine service to the town and make a motion to appoint him as the cemetery burial agent.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Cameron is an aye. Congratulations, Christopher. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Review, discuss, and act designation of health director as special municipal employee.
Oh, the lights on?
No, we're not doing that tonight.
And that's been tabled to the meeting on the 25th.
Do we need to make a motion to table it, or?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
fine.
I'd like to make a motion to table the facilities request for the annual lights on ceremony until the next meeting.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Cameron is an aye. Thank you, for pointing that out. Mr. Aguirre, how are you?
I'm wonderful.
How's your vacation going?
Not well. Actually, it's going fine, thank you very much. Busy little town, that's all I have to say.
Yes. Michael, do you have anything to say about this?
So yeah, so on the 15th of August, the Board of Health after interviewing Mr. Aguirre, the Board of Health appointed him as the health director for the town, and as a result of the Board of Health vote, the health director reached out to the ethics commission, like at the end of August, and actually in advance of that, like in July as well, to make sure the structure of the employment had conformed and was in line with all the ethics laws. As a follow-up to that, we reached out to our own council over the past 3 to 4 weeks, and what is actually what's being presented tonight, is a recommendation that the health director be designated as a as a special municipal employee.
Do you have any questions? I know you did.
Yes, I do. I have before me this evening a disclosure by special municipal employee. However, there's a lot of information that I don't have, and I have questions. And I say that as a representative of the voters of the town. So I know if I don't know the answers to the questions that I have, I'm pretty confident that the voters don't. And we all know that misinformation and rumors can create problems for us and also for the person who is appointed by this board. So the questions I'm going to ask this evening, there is no agenda on my part other than information for myself and also for the voters. The first question that I have, Mrs. Mello is currently a nurse for the town of Dayton, a member of the Board of Selectmen, and correct me if I'm wrong, she would also be under your supervision?
I wouldn't say under my supervision. She would work jointly with me, as we've done in the past. Would I be responsible for signing the nurse's payroll in the absence of the chairman? That would be yes. But I don't think that the nurse would report to me. The nurse has her own disciplines. Would we work jointly to solve problems and to make sure that the health department represents the people in the correct manner? Absolutely. We've done that in the past and will continue to do that. In fact, we've continued to collaborate on that recently with trying to get certifications paid for through grant resources to try to take the burden of some trainings off the taxpayers' back. And I thank you for that.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes, sir.
in response to that,
Mm-hmm.
the fact that Mr. Aguirre would be signing Mrs. Mello's payroll,
Yes.
does that give the appearance or could be construed by the Ethics Commission as a conflict of interest.
The position of the public health, the position of the public health nurse is also a special employee, and the health director, so the appointing authority of the health director role is the Board of Health. So that doesn't have any conflict with Ms. Mello's role as a, and on this, and, oh my God, I can't talk. So that doesn't have any conflict with this role. And so that doesn't have any conflict with this role. That doesn't have any conflict with this role when Nikki as a member of the Board of Selectmen.
So the Board of Health nurse answers
The
to the Board of Health
yes,
and not necessarily to Mr. Agia.
yes.
I think, if I may, I think I can clarify a little bit. The role of the position that was created is to oversee the daily operations of the department. There's been no supervision, there's been no accountability, and quite frankly, the Board of Health in this matter has done its best to try to do those, play those roles. But unless they're in the building for any length of time, it's nearly impossible to do that. So, you know, I understand that the term is director, and I think, you know, we shouldn't read into it too much. But my role isn't to, in this case, tell the Board of Health what to do, the selectmen, the nurse, or any of the employees. It's just to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and when called upon, they're available for the public. Moreover, the daily operations, the grant opportunities, the quantification of payroll, employees' times, they're not abusing time, they're in the office when they're supposed to be, they're doing inspections when they're supposed to be. That's the cusp of what it is. Do I think it will blossom into other things? Sure it will. But in no way, shape, or form is it in any way to take the, or fill the role of the Board of Health. The Board of Health is its own entity.
When the Board of Health had a discussion with the title, was the term coordinator ever discussed, rather than a director?
There was operations manager, there was manager, there was all kinds of terms. I really don't care what you call it, to be frank with you. I just want to make sure that, we're serving the public in the correct way, that's all.
Okay.
And that we're serving the taxpayers appropriately. And the grant, I don't want to keep going back to this, but, you know, as small as it may seem, the fact that we're able to get a training paid for by a grant shouldn't be taken lightly. That's a couple of town employees, one of them being a selectman and your nurse, and the operations manager, director, whatever you call it, looking for other ways to pay for things so it's not on the taxpayer's dime.
Can I just add that $700 we have had paid through this grant for trainings. So that's a lot. Our budget line is very small, and that would have almost taken up the whole budget line. Selectman Hall, before you go on with your next question, I just want to, because we mentioned me, I want to understand what the current concern with at Jim signing my payroll in comparison to the board.
No, my question would be, we're going to be voting on this evening, and whether it would be a conflict of interest. I didn't have the answer to that. I'm not trying to eliminate you from voting. I just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, one way or the other. That was more of a question to Michael, who's had a lot more experience. And Michael has answered the question. If he feels uncomfortable, then we could table this for another meeting, just be 100%
Well,
sure.
I could just abstain from voting if we feel like this is a
Again,
matter that I should
I'm
vote on.
not trying to eliminate you, I'm just trying to prevent there being an issue. And I'm asked the question
I think it would be an issue if I was the one who controlled the nurse's pay or the hours she works. But that is done solely by the nurse based on the needs. All I'm doing is making sure that the appropriate amount of hours that were worked were captured on the payroll and reflected as such. That's all.
Yes.
I haven't seen a contract for this position. How many hours is this position?
Up to 10.
Up to 10?
And like up to, oh yeah, I'm sorry, up to 10 hours a week.
Okay.
But
What I mean about word that was out there, thank you, because I heard 20, but
yeah, no, it's up to 10 hours, but honestly, this is going to convert my, my position to exempt status, meaning that I will no longer have overtime or comp time. And if anybody wants to follow me around, this town gets more than its share from me out of a work week. I'm supposed to be on vacation last Thursday. I've been here 20 hours so far since then, so. And I do that because I want to. I love working here, I love being here, and I love making sure things get done.
Mr. Aguirre, as I've told you privately, and I'll say it publicly, you do an outstanding job for this town. There's no question about that. I just wanted to go over these questions so the voters will be informed and everything will be transparent.
Sure.
Also, Mr. Mullen is your supervisor.
Mhm.
The Board of Selectmen, we don't micromanage.
No, I understand. Currently, I'm a 40-hour-a-week employee. Adding 10 hours to my pay, my work week would bring 50 hours. If you do that at my overtime pay, the amount of money that I'll be paid for this position is far less than what I would be paid if I did overtime. So this isn't a money grab. This is just trying to fix a problem and make sure we do things appropriately.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All set?
Yes.
Okay, you satisfied with your answers that you got? Okay, great. Nicole, do you have any questions or
No.
comments? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to appoint James Aguirre as the Health Director and as a special municipal employee for the town of Dayton.
Do you want to second that, or do you want me to step down?
Are we all comfortable with
Yes,
me
I am.
being able to second that? If not, I'm absolutely fine with
Yeah, like I would actually hold off and like I think oh my god, I can't talk to it. No, I would hold off. I'm sorry.
Okay. So I will step down as chair and second that motion. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs.
Thank you.
I go back to your vacation now?
No, I'm here for the night.
Okay. The next review, discuss, act is a recommendation to appoint Jonathan Gale to the Open Space Committee. Jonathan's out with us tonight, but he is on Zoom. And do we have any questions for Jonathan?
Good evening. How are you?
Good, Jonathan. How about yourself?
Doing well, thanks.
Good. I am part of the Open Space Committee, and Jonathan applied, I guess, a few weeks back, and he came to our first meeting that we've had in a long time, and asked to be a volunteer on the Open Space Committee. They interviewed him that night. Everything went great, and I would also make the recommendation that we appoint Jonathan Gale to the Open Space Committee. Any discussion?
No, I would like to make a motion to appoint Jonathan Gale to the Open Space Committee.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Have a great evening.
Review, discuss, and act recommendation to appoint Barbara Catavia to the Dayton Development and Industrial Committee.
Mrs. Catavia is here this evening. She has served this community in many roles over the years. She is a business owner, both in the construction industry and the farming industry, both livestock and agriculture. I would, and the DDIC also recommended her appointment to the Board of Selectmen. I would like to make a motion to appoint Barbara Catavia to the Dayton Development and Industrial Committee.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Cameron is an aye. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank
Thank
Barbara.
you, appreciate it.
You know you have to be sworn in, right? You've been through this routine before. Recommendation to appoint Shara Costa to the Historical Commission. Again, last night's meeting went great. It would have a full board now with Shara being added, which is 7 members, which they haven't had in I guess, a couple of years. And the Historical Commission, again, voted to welcome her with open arms and voted her to be appointed.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Shara Costa to the Historical Commission.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Cameron is an aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon.
Thank
You
you.
know, you have to be sworn in by the clerk, right? I think the moderator's here tonight.
Yes.
Will probably get that taken care of.
Okay, taken care of, thank you.
Recommendation to appoint reserve patrol officers. Mark, I don't want to butcher your last name. What is your last name, Mark?
Charbonneau.
Charbonneau. And Samantha McGuire.
Good evening, everybody.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
So as you know, it's tough to try to find help, that help out with the full-time overtime costs and stuff. So the fact that we are able to hire reserve police officers or part-time patrol officers now, I guess is more or less the term we're supposed to use. It's like I said, try to find those people because they don't offer reserve training anymore in the state of Massachusetts. After post, they eliminated all that training, those academies. So when the bridge went in effect, Ms. Samantha McGuire had gone through all the training. I was approached months ago about her coming on to Dayton, and Mr. Charbonneau was also recommended by other staff on the Taunton PD. Mark worked full-time for the Taunton Police Department and recently transferred over and got hired at the Taunton Fire Department. They both have the full-time academy credentials, so I would recommend appointing them to the part-time reserve list of the Dayton Police Department to cut down on overtime costs and whatnot and help fill other duties.
So if you're comfortable, I'm comfortable. Is there any recommendation?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Reserve Patrol Officers Mark Charbonneau and Samantha McGuire to the Dayton Police Department.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Cameron is an aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, you can come up, absolutely.
I was just gonna say congratulations to them.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I can start.
Chief, when did they start?
So the next step will be getting them with the FTOs and then arranging their availability with field training and then going through all that
So
stuff.
nothing happens on Monday?
Nothing will happen on Monday.
So you can either come by tomorrow or certainly on Monday, they are closed on Friday. Great, thank you.
Thank
It was very nice to meet you both.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Chief. The next we have is announcements, and there are several, and Mrs. Mello is going to take care of that for us.
Yes. So the Dayton Council on Aging and Walgreens Pharmacy is hosting a food clinic. It's gonna be on Wednesday, 10/18, from It will be held at the Dayton Council on Aging, 1059 Somerset Avenue. I will also be there as the public health nurse doing blood pressure readings. It does say that you need to have your insurance card present when you come. I don't have it on here, but I do want to mention there will be an additional flu clinic put on by the Board of Health. This will be on October 28th. This is for all age groups. If you do have a child with you, you do need to have a parent that can sign for them. And you should have your insurance card as well. If you'd like to sign up in advance, there is a flyer on the town Facebook page. I encourage you to utilize that link. The Town of Dayton Food Bank will be held next on October 21st. This is located at Town Hall, 979 Somerset Ave. It's in the lower level. I'm gonna have to talk to the Council on Aging. They got a lot of events.
Yeah.
They need their own thing. The Dayton Council on Aging is hosting a free breakfast. This is followed by a health, emergency, and safety resource fair. The Dayton Police Department, the Fire Department, Lifeline, and more will present. This is held on Monday, 10/23 at 9:30 a.m. at the Dayton Council on Aging, 1059 Somerset Ave. Please RSVP at 508-823-0095. Dayton Council on Aging received a license through the Massachusetts State Lottery to play bingo every Monday. This is from 1 to 2 p.m. Also at the Dayton Council on Aging, 1059 Somerset Avenue. This will start in October. Cards are $1 each. Please bring cash. The Dayton Council on Aging received a movie license through MPLC. They're going to play movies at the Dayton Council on Aging in October, starting on 10/13 at 11 a.m. The Addams Family will be played, and on Friday, 10/27 at 11 a.m. they will play Hocus Pocus. There will be light refreshments. Prescription drug take back day. This will be happening on October 28th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Dayton Police Department at 1458 Somerset Avenue. Lastly, the Veterans Day breakfast will be held on November 4th to express our gratitude and appreciation for all our veterans in town. The breakfast will be held at Old Town Hall, 1111 Somerset Avenue, between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. And you can RSVP with the Veterans Agent at 774-827-0944. And that's all.
The Veterans Breakfast was a great success last year. And I
Yes.
believe the Selectmen served that breakfast, right?
Yes.
Next is the Town Administrator's Report.
Yes, thank you. I do have a, a very exciting update. We do have the proposed plans for the town hall railing, in the stairway system. We've been working, for the approximately about the past 2.5 months. The building had the building the building commissioner and I have been working with Granite City Partners, Jim, because I'm having a hard time speaking tonight for some godforsaken reason.
I got it, Mike. This is
Thank
my
you, Jim.
wheelhouse. So, yeah, hello, everyone, again. Yes, so as Administrator Mullins said, we've been working with Granite City Partners to, at the request of the taxpayers, they want to see a railing on the new walkway at Town Hall. So we worked with the design team to come up with a single-sided rail system on the walkway. But in addition to that, we felt that a set of stairs going from the sidewalk area to the intermediate landing on the walkway would also be a benefit, so that people didn't have to walk up the entire length of the walkway. If they chose to take the stairs and they were ambulatory, then they could use them. So we came up with this design, which clearly shows that when you enter the sidewalk area from the parking area, you now have the ability, or may have the ability, to turn right, walk up the walkway, which is existing, or turn left, which will be a new walkway with a series of a few stairs to an intermediate landing, and then a single step up to the landing that's existing at the turn halfway up the walkway. That will also have railings on either side, and that will tie into the railing system that is proposed for the entire length of the inside of the walkway. While we were talking with the design team, I thought that it might be a good idea as an alternate to add a set of stairs from the upper parking area to the lower area, which would lead to the track. So everyone was in agreement that that might be a good idea. The design team took it one step further, came up with a terraced set of stairs instead of just a standard staircase, so that it blended in with the hill and the walkway, the hillside, and create a walkway that would get pedestrians from the upper level to the lower level. So we're hoping that when the bids go out, or the request for bids go out, that we can do all of this. And that would also include eliminating one parking space adjacent to the terrace stair and a walkway across to the track area. So the hope for that is to promote more healthy living, get people from their cars to the track in a safe manner. I've actually been witness to people slipping on that grass down there, trying to get down from A to B. It's not fun. So I think this will be a good addition to the complex.
If we are promoting healthy living, why are we adding steps?
Well, you would think that, but the amount of complaints for the walkway is
Yes.
quite revealing.
I'm glad to see the addition of the lower parking with the set of stairs that come up. One of the things that you said early was it was going to go down to the track. It's not going down to the track, it's just
No.
going to the lower level.
To the lower level, which
And-
then, would get
Yeah.
you to the track.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah.
No, it's okay. We received a fair number of complaints about that railing.
Right,
as
or the
you're
lack
well
of,
aware, a
right,
lack of.
yes.
And since I've been a selectman, people have asked, when's the railing coming in? So with that said, when do you think this will be installed?
Well, with the selectmen's blessing tonight, we will actually put it out for pricing with our contracted tradesmen, which we have with Brian Patch, Plan B Construction, I'm sorry, which is also the contractor who worked on the exterior of the library building.
Okay, great.
So we already have someone under contract, so we don't need to go out for the full gauntlet. So I would say, probably by your next meeting, we would hope to come back to you with a price
Okay,
and get your blessing to move forward with it.
so we're not putting this out for bid?
With the current contract that we have, the price per hour has already been negotiated,
So,
and it's more than reasonable, so, yeah. And Mr. Patch has a history of working in town, he likes working in town, so I can't think of a more qualified contractor who would probably do whatever he can for the town to get this project done.
great, thank you. Mr. Hull, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Mrs. Miller? No. Okay, is there a motion on the floor?
Mr. Chairman, I don't see anything on the agenda.
So that was just, oh yes, so that was just, oh my god, that was just included like in the town administrator's report. We don't actually need a vote, but we
Okay.
wanted to update.
Okay.
All right, I
Right.
thought you said it with the blessing of the selectmen, so.
Well, I do want the selectmen's input, so, yeah.
Okay.
But if everyone seems to be amicable,
Yeah.
I think so.
hopefully it'll be on the agenda for the next meeting, and we'll get this project started.
Okay, great.
Thank you,
James.
thank you, thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Mullen?
That's all I have.
Okay, great. Selectmen's reports. I am up first with the Open Space Committee. We just met last Wednesday for the first time in over a year. We now have a quorum, so we can continue to meet. I think it's the first Wednesday of every month, which we'll have to talk about Mike for next month, because the selectmen's meeting is the same night.
Okay.
Just as a location, unless we do it here before the selectmen's meeting. The chairman talked about getting a list, or he has a list of anything that's over 40 acres in town, that's open space, from anything that's privately owned to what is owned by the town, to see where we can start to go with direction that we, nothing was decided other than he just sought that information.
Who is the chairman?
Dan Higgins,
Yeah.
yeah, he does a great job.
Oh, he does.
The historical committee met last night, and just let me pull up the notes that I had. One of the things that we discussed was the time capsule. They were going to check with the library committee to see if, again, this could be placed in the library. They got a few more items to put inside. Another thing that they had discovered, which was there's some things in the vault at Town Hall that they might like to add to the time capsule. Recently discovered because the town clerk was doing some cleaning up in there. One of the things that they are doing is interviewing residents who have been here for many years. There's no restriction, but they're going to put together a catalog of interviewing these people, where they went to school, what was their first job. Some of these places that these folks had worked no longer exist, and they haven't existed in years. So they were trying to kill two birds with one stone, interview them, and also find out about some of these buildings that no longer exist, such as the red and white convenience store. We talked about the James Briggs garden sign in Helen Lane map. James, you know about that map, I'm sure by now. And it's going to go up on...
It's gonna go up wherever the selectmen tell me to put it up.
Okay, they seem to think it's coming in here, that they had talked to you.
That's what they would like it to be here.
Okay.
But I haven't officially requested your blessing for that yet.
Sure.
We're running low on wall space here, but there's
Right, I wonder if it would do it justice if it was
yeah.
somewhere at Town Hall in that new room that we've...
Yeah, I certainly don't want to steer the ship, but I do
Right.
think that the walls are cluttered in here.
Yes.
And when they get cluttered, people don't pay attention to what's on them. So,
Right.
yeah, if we could showcase it in some other venue, that would
Sure.
be great. So, yeah, I'm looking for a little guidance. I
That-
do have it in my possession, though.
Right, that room, it's nicely done too. They didn't spend a fortune, they got some kind of a break, but they had it done, and like I said, it came out very nice. What is happening with that space at Town Hall as far as wall decorations? Anything at all?
The only thing that was discussed was to take an old door from the Briggs home
Yep,
and refurbish it and put it on the wall as an accent piece.
yep.
But if we want to reconsider that and maybe put some of those artifacts in there, that might be
Well,
a
that
better
sounds
idea.
intriguing as well.
Right,
There's no wall space at Town Hall,
right.
so it can either go into the new library if that is completed, or do you have any other suggestions, Lenny or Nicole?
Sounds like we need another building for all this stuff.
Yes.
Well,
Well, I wouldn't recommend that it go here.
No.
Just like you said, there's so much on the walls now, it won't do anything on the wall justice.
No. You know, just a suggestion,
Yeah.
that small room is going to be sort of like a neutral zone that
Yeah.
people can use for whatever need. Maybe we consider calling it the James Briggs Room or something, and
Sure.
we can hang some stuff in there that are historically significant.
Great idea.
Just a thought, so,
Something that we can consider.
okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
just one question, actually, observation. That room that was refurbished, Town Hall, correct me if I'm wrong, that was done by your men, correct?
It was done by the highway department, yes,
Highway Department.
yes. They have shared men between Mr. Ferry and I.
So, thank you.
Yes, yes, they are.
Significant savings to the town.
Tremendous savings, yes, Yes, and everyone's been patient, so I want to thank everyone for their patience with that. We know it took a long time, but there are a lot of things going on, so.
Yeah, it came out very nice.
Yeah, thank you.
The last thing that we discussed was markers for some of the older buildings here in town, historical buildings. The first marker is going to go on this town hall, the old town hall, and it will go in the corner of the building, have the date, and I can't exactly remember, what was this called? What was this building called before the old town hall? There was a name.
Grange?
No, before the Grange, when it first opened up, it was, shoot,
It was town hall.
it was,
It was built for town government.
right, but there was a unique name for it, something town hall, I'm
sorry.
the,
Where's Shara? She left already?
yeah, all right, I can have that for the next meeting, and that's it. Nicole Mello, you have the Board of Health.
So we actually meet next week, right, the boards meet. But just to go off of what we were speaking about previously in regards to the shared services agreement that we are in, like I said, about $700 that we got in training, which is great because, I mean, we have this new health agent. She's new to this position. She's new to being a health agent, so she doesn't have any training. So it was going to be, it would be expensive for the department to make sure that she's up to date with everything. So through the shared services, she's gonna have a good foundation, and we don't have to fund all of that. I think that was it. I'll have more after we meet next week, but that was one of the big things that we have going on, having additional funds.
Great, thank you. Mr. Hull.
Well, I'm starting off with some really good news.
Okay.
The new finance accountants that are filling in and replaced Mr. Baxter found a mistake in the Dayton assessment. We will be getting $8,000 more dollars. Dayton's new assessment will be $11,412,971. Now, my question is, what do we do with that money? Is that, we won't get that in time for special town meeting, correct?
They, it actually, we received in, a correspondence from from the district this evening. They're gonna reduce, they're going to, and, basically reduce our bills, from now to the end of FY24 by $8,000, so we'll end the year, in our education, $8,000 to the good.
Okay. And then that will be transferable.
That at the end of the year will then, goes out to free cash.
It won't go to E&D.
No. It's in our operating budget, so it'll close out to our free cash.
Thank you.
Yep.
The second item is more of a serious nature. Commonwealth of Massachusetts is in the discussion stages of a mandatory sex education program, curriculum, grades K through 12. Currently, communities are allowed to opt in or opt out. Dayton Rehoboth has allowed parents, if they so choose, to opt out of the class. Logistically, that could, it hasn't yet, create a problem for the principals and for schools. Because if you have a class, 20 students, and 15 opt out, you have to find a place for them. The message that the superintendent wanted to get across to parents and the school committee wanted to get across to parents is twofold. One, when the curriculum materials go home, to read over it carefully, have a discussion with your child. If you have questions, ask, but don't just ignore this. Think about it seriously and make a decision. Secondly, political advocacy on this issue is very important. The legislature is accepting input. Now is the time for the voters to speak to their representatives, Senate, House, and express their feelings about this curriculum, whether it should be optional or mandated, or even the materials that are being suggested to be taught in that curriculum. Thank you on that. In regards to Water District, there is going to be a special town meeting in November. They're not sure the date to do some transfers of free cash. There will be no items to raise and appropriate. Personal aside, hopefully there will be more members at that meeting than the last. At the last special meeting, other than the people that were required to be there, no residents attended, and that's unfortunate. The Water District has sent out letters about repair work on the meter units, and the response has not been good. Letters letting people know that their water could be shut off are going out this month. So please contact the Water District if your meter has not been updated. And also, October 18th to the 27th, the Dayton Water District will be flushing hydrants. Your water may be a little brown. They will be putting notices out and sign up, letting people know that it could be a problem. And lastly, an advisory letter went into the mail today in regards to a slight increase in trihalomethane in the water supply. The acceptable level is 80 parts per billion. The test came back 81 parts per. As a result, the town is required to send out notification of that. The Water District wanted it stressed that this is not an emergency. It is not an issue that warrants concern with the public. The Water District will take steps to bring down the level to accepted standards. And part of the problem was created by all the rain that we've had. Also, part of it was caused by the Elm Street water storage tank that will probably, in the near future, need upgrade. In addition, naturally occurring organic biofilm has occurred in the system, and the breakdown of organic matter will be treated with the addition of chlorine. But again, they wanted to stress that this is not an emergency, and they are required by state law to notify the voters, or consumers, that they are above the 80 units per billion standard. Thank you.
Thank you. That sign that's gonna go on this town hall is called the Old the Old Townhouse, and that's what will be on the sign along with the date that so we were close. Moving on to old business, review, discuss, and act proposal for the public safety consultants for chief of police hiring process.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Based on the board's discussion and direction you provided me at the last meeting, I've spent the last 2 weeks actually soliciting quotes from firms, and I reached out to 2 firms. Like, I'm just trying to move this real quick, like an entity called Public Safety Consultants, who the town worked with, like actually in 2022, they were the firm that could best, like actually try to tailor its scope, but to our existing budget, in a hiring, like in a hiring process that would be practical for the town. And so, what they're proposing is a multi-phase, is a multi-phase process. So phase 1 would be the project initiation phase, where public safety consultants would work with the town administrator to review the current police chief job description and make recommendations. The second part of that says in preparation for the selection process, public safety consultant staff may conduct key informational interviews with individuals selected by the town. Public safety consultants will review police department documents and additional information supplied by the town. The phase 2 is a preliminary candidate selection, and it states that PSC staff, in consultation with the town administrator, will conduct the initial review of an evaluation of the acting chief's resume. Public safety consultants will meet with and conduct an oral interview of the acting chief of police. This will allow us to evaluate, assess, and make recommendations as to the candidate's knowledge, skills, abilities, and personnel traits for the position of police chief. In addition to the normal resume, public safety consultant recommends seeking additional information from the candidates to rank essay questions. Public safety consultants will work with the town administrator to develop questions specific to the town of Dayton. Then upon the completion of a resume review and a scoring of essay questions, public safety consultants will recommend candidates to be considered for phase 3. And so phase 3 includes screening interviews. Public safety consultants will then conduct an in-person interview by a team of subject matter experts. Public safety consultants will work with the town administrator to develop interview questions that are specific to the town of Dayton, but to also ensure the candidate's ability to articulate and demonstrate an understanding of the police professional best practices. Public safety consultants will recommend specific questions along with the evaluation dimensions that reflect the requirements of the target job. This provides a method for content validation. Phase 4 includes an assessment center, and so public safety consultants will provide the town administrator with a written report of the findings of the interview and selection process to include an overall review of the candidate's presentation, and then phase 5 says and actually has a host of options for the candidate to be for the candidate to be interviewed by the appointing authority, which is the board. We have an ability to have a meet and greet, and the final component of this whole process would be the conduction of a background check. So, public safety consultants is proposing that as a total cost of $5,500, which is about $10,000 less than the other quote that I also have as well. So they are extremely they are extremely in line with our budgetary issues. They also have done this probably in half of the cities and towns like in Massachusetts over the last few years as well. So if there's any questions or concerns, I just wanted to have I just want to have all this out there so everyone so everyone had an understanding of all the options in front of us.
The 5,500, was there any opportunity to have something done in-house internally so that price could come down?
If we have the option of only actually starting with one resume and application, there wouldn't be like a whole host of internal efforts at that point.
Okay.
So probably not.
Stone?
Do we have a timeline for the completion of this process?
I would hope and anticipate by the end of the calendar year.
So we have a full-time new chief, January 1, 2024.
That's what I am hoping, and that is a target date that I'm envisioning here.
Thank you, Chief, for coming back. Do you have any questions you want to ask now?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Michael, let's move on to,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion
okay.
to retain public safety consultants for the chief of police hiring process.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Peter Cameron's an aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Old business update, the memorandum of understanding between Town of Dayton and Clerical Union regarding assessors office staffing.
Yes. So we have had an MOU with the with the clerical union, like in, yeah, in the assessor's office employee, that actually goes back to the beginning of the year. That MOU expired at the end of June, and that was actually extended through the end of September 2023, and it has since again expired. What I am actually, yeah, and I'm recommending that the board extend it once more, through the end of the calendar year to December 31st. So it would go from October 1st to December 31st, 2023.
And why the extra time?
There is an employee in the office who has an abundance of time that they're using, and that has actually that has created an operational challenge in the office. That has actually required the other employee to step up.
Okay. Mr. Hall, any questions?
No idea.
Mrs. Hall? All right. Is there a motion on the floor?
The only thing is this about the specific person in this letter?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Selectmen approve the agreement by and between the town of Dayton with Lisa Tetro and the Dayton Clerical Library and Council on Aging Union, as presented.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Cameron's an aye. Thank you. On to new business. Fire Station Building Committee, designation of finalists for feasibility study.
And Jim, if you want to.
Sure. Hello, everyone.
A lot of you tonight, Jim.
Yeah, told you I'd be here for the night. So, yeah, thank you, Administrator Mullen. So, Selectman Hull and I have been sitting on the Fire Station Building Committee for a few months now, and we vetted the 4 applicants that submitted proposals to us for the feasibility study. Those 4 applicants were ranked using the rubric that was in the RFP that went out for their scope of services, and the the highest scorer was HKT Architects, number 2, RGB, and then number 3 was LICO, and the 4th one scored much, much lower than the top 3. So as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, Administrator Mullen, the way the procurement requirements are written, we would now try to negotiate a contract based on the available funds with the highest scoring architecture firm.
Yes, sir.
If that's successful, we move forward with the feasibility study. If not, then we move to the next highest scoring ranking company, which in this case would be RGB. So right now, we would like, Administrator Mullen would like permission to try to negotiate a contract with them for the feasibility study with the highest ranking firm, which is HKT.
Okay.
Anything to add, Selectman Hull?
The only thing that we have is the same process that we use for the peer review engineer and the 4 engineering firms that we hired at the last meeting was the same process we used for this. So it's been very consistent.
Yeah, and I think it's worthwhile, just real quick, that I have sat on both of those committees, and I think the process is excellent. It's something that I haven't been part of in the past, so I want to thank Administrator Mullen for proposing that process and moving it forward, and to all of my fellow committee members who took the time well into the night to go through all these documents to try to find out who the best candidates were. So I would just encourage everyone to continue on with this process because it works really well.
Okay. So you need permission to continue?
Yes, yes, at this time I do I do ask that the board vote to approve the HKT Architects, RGB Architects, in the in the library group in the order that in the order that they have been ranked as finalists, so that we have an ability to try to negotiate a contract with them.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Selectmen approve the proposed finalists to conduct fire station feasibility study, starting with HKT Architects of Charleston, Massachusetts, followed by RGB Architects, Providence, Rhode Island, and, if necessary, Lyro Group, Boston, Mass. Would be the third finalist that we would negotiate, attempt to negotiate a contract with.
I'll second that.
Is it seconded on the floor? Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Cameron's an aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Selectmen's meeting scheduled for November 1st, 15th, and 29th.
Yes. We are anticipating a very active November 2023, and so based on that, I'm proposing that the board actually meet 3 times on the first, on the first, third, and the in the 5th Wednesday, rather than the 2nd and 4th Wednesday.
Okay. I have no issues with that. Do you guys?
No.
Okay. Is there
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Selectmen meetings for the month of November be November 1st, November 15th, and November 29th.
I'll second that.
any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Cameron's an aye. Thank you. We have some aging surplus items.
Yes, from the Council on Aging, they are trying to get rid of the chair that I used to have my hair done in. And so they are recommending that do be disposed. They also have a side table they're recommending for surplus, and they are recommending that a broken fax be disposed as well.
Okay. Is there a motion on the floor?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the following Council on Aging surplus items: 1 salon chair be disposed, 1 side table go to surplus, and 1 broken fax machine also be disposed.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Cameron's an aye. Thank you.
And that brings us to the 7 o'clock joint meeting. That's only 8 minutes late, which
Yes. So I think, split the winnings with Leanne.
yeah. I think this was very effective. So yeah, if FinCom wants to come up and join us, then we should be able to go.
just skip the ones that don't involve the finance committee?
Yes, and hold on a sec here, I emailed those out, so, so the articles 2 through 17, they will actually, they will also need a recommendation from the FinCom. So yeah, can I think, okay, do you think the FinCom has to open the meeting, so Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, and just before I say anything, do I need to say a little
Yeah.
be on that alert?
Actually, you don't, because
Sure.
this is already open and it's already been said, so we're
Good.
good.
I'd like to call the October 11th, 2023 Finance Committee meeting to order. Do we need a roll call since everyone is in person?
No.
Okay. For the sake of the new clerk, would you prefer a roll call?
I would.
Okay. Peter Roche, here, present.
Sue Lorenz, present.
Ron McKay, present.
Doug White, present.
Bill Pruitt, present.
Bill Mello, present.
Thank you.
Start with Article 2.
Yes, like Article 2, like, and I did include in everyone's packet overview of each proposed article, so you should have, have all the backup and background you need as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions. We do have an accountant here, and we do have a host of departments who also have articles on the warrant as well, and to answer any other questions or provide additional backup.
What is Coppola and Coppola?
That is a invoice from the treasurer's office for,
Tax title land court and foreclosure expenses.
and it was from May and June of '23.
And Thomson Reuters and Convergent, is that just software?
Yeah, like that is the
I believe that was work done at the station on the cameras or software,
yes, and the holding cells.
the holding stuff.
Electronic security is what they said
like acting chief, do you want to explain the convergent bill and the camera issue?
Yeah,
And the holding cell, if that's okay.
Yeah, so that bill, I guess, we had a company, so we had an incident that had down the station, a button was hit in the back room. It shut all the camera systems down, it caused havoc. So of course, by law and compliance, you need to have cameras running for, you know, when you get prisoners in cells and whatnot, and just everyday function. And we called the company that, from what was conveyed to me, that knew how to fix the system. When they were called down, they came down and they pretty much, the technician acted like he knew what he was doing, and come to the end result, he had no clue what he was doing, and then turned around and sent the police department a $3,000 and change bill. I don't have the exact figure in front of me, but Chief Cronin at the time kind of lost his mind with it because they didn't fix the problem. And it went back and forth, and then at the end result, things happened with the station, plus, you know, personnel issues, and it kind of got put on the back burner. So, end of the year, it comes around, this bill wasn't paid, And this is the end result of it. So, they didn't fix the problem. They didn't fix the problem, and Chief Cronin basically told them that we weren't paying it because they didn't fix the problem. We had to hire another company to come in and actually fix the problem with cameras.
So this is the bill for the new company?
This is the bill from the company that never fixed,
So they're by charging us.
Yeah, they still wanna charge us.
Okay, it's a different charge.
Mr. Hall, you have a question?
Do we have to pay them? Since
Mr. Hall, I wish I had an answer for that. I mean, I wasn't there at the time. I don't know what the contract was. I don't know what the agreement was, but I know it was an unpaid bill, so, I mean,
this is.
I could reach out to them. I mean,
Yeah, the documentation of the contract, what was signed, and
I don't,
do that.
like I said, I don't know anything about it, you know.
Have you seen the bill?
I have seen it.
Whose name is on that invoice?
Dayton Police Department.
And did you tell them that you weren't gonna pay?
I did not, no.
That's probably the first step. They didn't do the job, you had to hire somebody else. You told them, they might just withdraw.
They might.
After that, we'd have to decide if we were going to arbitrate.
But they didn't fix, like I said, they didn't fix the problem, so another company came in, fixed all the cameras and.
So why don't we take that off the article and we'll see what happens.
Have you been getting bills?
We have not.
Do we have to vote on that or?
Vote to take it off?
Yes.
And if the board votes to take it off, then the only thing the FinCom would have to do and is have a recommendation on the remaining.
Okay.
So that works, if that's okay with everyone.
Now, if we do that.
Yep.
Somebody's gonna keep track
Oh, God, yeah.
of the total, because
Yep.
it's gonna affect
But
the surplus.
4587.75 would be the new motion.
That's not the total,
That's not the total?
no. That's the, COPA, invoice amount. So I can call, do the total.
3,000.
The total bill, I'm assuming these, based on Mike's summary, was 6345.75.
Yes.
So pull off the 1758, it's 4587.75.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
So if I may, within the police department, who does handle the billing?
So I have a secretary, and she was told not to pay the bill by the former chief because he was going back and forth with the company because refusing to
So she
pay it
does-
because he never fixed it.
Does she have the original contract work?
I can ask. Like I said, I wasn't in the seat at the time, so I'm only giving you what knowledge of the issue and the reason why we didn't pay it, and the reason why I'm standing here tonight.
I'm only bringing this up too, because we do want a contact person if we're saying we're not gonna pay this bill, we wanna know who's gonna be carrying the ball.
Right.
It doesn't sound like anybody's been carrying the ball since we got the bill.
Yeah, it was kind of put on the back burner, it was forgotten about, and end of the year it comes up, oh, this wasn't paid. Well, why wasn't it paid? Because they never fixed the cameras, they didn't do the job.
Yeah, at this point, if we pull it off with a special town meeting, it can't be paid until June anyway. so-
Right.
That's fine. But it sounds like they invoiced once, they were told that they weren't gonna get paid and they.
And they
haven't.
reduced it,
Resubmitting
well,
the-
it was in one amount, I guess, and then they reduced it when they told us, they told us, when we told them they weren't paying it. And so they thought they were gonna get for us to pay it at 30, what was the amount on that bill?
Yeah, 1758.
1758.
And this started from what I understand around 3500.
500, I think, was the original bill.
So I just wanna make sure we're, all on the same page. The next course of action would go to the secretary to see if she has.
Yeah, see
the
if she has
contract, and
anything.
If she
Right.
doesn't, can she reach out to them and try to acquire the contract copy?
So we need a motion on the floor to subtract that.
Yes. Yeah, from the board, and then, and then the recommendation will come on the 4500-ish amount.
So
board.
when that would return that Article 2 from 3460 to 1,702.26, is that correct?
No.
We would subtract 1758 from the 3460.
The
6345.
1758 from the 6345.75.
Okay.
Does anybody have the new figure again? Peter?
458775.
7,
458775.
75. That would be the total for Article 2.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that there'd be a reduction of $1,758 from the police prior bills, bringing Article 2 total number to $4,587.75.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye. Thank you.
Do we need to specifically say pulling conversion out? Or the fact changing that dollar amount somehow?
The fact that you took the dollar amount, that was fine. Yeah.
Any questions on any of the items that remained on the old bills? Take a motion to, on the new amount, $4,587.75.
I make a motion, that we put forth the finance committee, supports the amount of $4,587.75 for prior year bills.
Second that.
And that would be out of free cash? Is that your motion? Sue?
Out of free cash, yes, sorry. Thank you.
Made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. For these, Peter, you want me to
You want to
start
read
going
each
since
one?
you guys are?
Mike, do we have to read each one?
No, the warrant is already
So.
established, and we haven't really just to talk about the articles generally.
Okay. What was your question?
You want me to just start going with these guys since you guys?
absolutely.
So we'll move on to Article 3, it's the next dollar, or the next funding. Motion, or the article would be to transfer from free cash $106,146.76 for the third payment of 7 years on the new fire truck. There is already a year in the current year's budget, so this would be pulling another year into the current year budget by using some of the free cash for that.
This looks like that's what the original plan was when we entered into the lease agreement to begin with, so I don't see any reason why we would change that plan now.
And just a note for the public, have we gotten delivery on this yet? November?
At the end of November, I think. Go on.
I would say that the plan was to get it sooner, but other than that, yeah.
Yes.
Any questions on that article?
So we're in the third year, so we've been paying for it, we don't have it yet?
Correct. The town still has the funds. The town hasn't given the funds out to the company, but they have run through the budget.
Okay.
When was it actually due? When
This-
were we anticipating receiving that equipment?
We ordered in June 2021, and we've had our production issues. I mean, just in terms of the inventory and the production timeline of all that.
Yeah.
I
So-
would say originally May to June of 22, 23.
Yeah. I don't even have that answer.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, I
It's
expect
been over there.
So it's
So
about
like
5 months late.
6 months late, 5 months late. Okay. But we've been getting feedback about why it's late, and now the new date is November.
The fire chief's been actively involved, he's been communicating with them. And he doesn't have any issues based on what he said.
So maybe you didn't need the truck to begin with then. If it could be this late.
Good point.
Well, I would think too, some of the issues with this is we don't want to be left with equipment that is on its last leg, and we're having ordering issues and everything is back ordered. And this has happened as a result of COVID, supply issues, everything.
It's the same situation with the police car.
Yep.
It takes over a year to get it. So when you decide you need one, you have to plan on it being a year later that you're gonna receive it.
Guardrails, bullets, everything.
Everything. The last car we just got, this date for that car was supposed to be delivered at the beginning of July. It showed up the end of last week, and that was the car that was unfortunately damaged the other night, but.
Good thing you got, you beat down another one.
Right.
So, it just takes that long, so we're hoping to get, use the parts from that new car that weren't destroyed and put it onto a new car to cut down the time, the process, eventually.
Does the contract allow for any reduction in the cost because of failure to deliver on time?
No.
No.
That's something that going forward we might want to put into our contracts?
I don't think it's not late. We actually not paid for the truck, but we budgeted the truck
Right.
a few years ago. So nobody anticipated it coming immediately.
No, but it's 5 to 6 months later than promised.
No, I don't think it was ever promised.
Tell you like exactly, I don't actually think we've ever had actually like a hard timeline. We knew that from the day we ordered it that there would be a production issue.
Alright, I don't have any issues.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we vote to approve a transfer of available funds in the sum of $106,146.76 to be expended by the fire chief as the third payment on a 7-year lease for the purchase of a new fire engine.
Second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
That's that. On to Article 4. This is the excess spent on snow and ice removal from last winter. Snow and ice, the budget's typically $50,000. $50,000 is put in the budget, but that's the only line that the state allows you to go over what it's gonna cost you. So, in essence, what that did, last year we spent $96,000 on snow and ice. 50 is spent in last year's budget, 46 then we've gotta pay for now. So the article's looking for free cash.
What's the strategy? Do we put in a minimum and then exceed it? Because I remember last year, it was pretty warm. I think I took a snow shovel once. It had half an inch of snow, yet we almost spent double the budget.
And that's a good year. In many years, it's been 150, 200,000, 250,000.
Yeah, no, actually, like in FY '22, we spent about $150,000.
So,
The reason for that is if in 22 we put 250,000 in for snow and ice, you're now moving up what the budget calls for. So we're moving up the levy, we're moving up what we're paying in taxes. And we may not spend it, and then that's just gonna be more money into free cash.
yeah.
Versus this way, you're in essence taking that one line that you're allowed to overspend
Yeah.
and keep it in
So
line.
it is the that is the stretch.
It is a strategy, yeah,
We put in the bare minimum.
every
and then we
state,
exceed
every
it.
town does.
You got it.
And also, just to that point, with the snow and ice budget, once you increase it, you have to keep it at that minimum going forward.
So if we were to increase it to 250 every single year after that, it would have to be at least 250. So that's another reason that they're keeping it low at 50, to not be forced to have it higher unnecessarily.
Not allowed to zero budget.
No.
Can't just,
Florida.
yeah. No, I'm saying, start the year with a zero budget and say, okay, we're gonna build in. If you do 250 the year before, you gotta do 250 again.
And
That's
yeah,
kinda like
every
crazy.
year going forward, that's the law.
Yeah, so I guess I agree, keep it low.
So that's what this is, the 46,000 that went over and above last year's 50.
So we have to stay at 50 now.
Yes, at
At
least 50.
Yeah.
And we are looking to transfer this from available funds.
Good questions.
I make a motion that we go to, transfer from available funds the sum of $46,347.74 to fund the fiscal year 2023 snow and ice deficit.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Article 5, that was to pay the 4th year of a 5-year lease on the street sweeper for $50,561.92.
That we actually have.
I know.
We have that?
I just seen that street.
We have,
It's what,
Any questions on that?
I make a motion, we vote to transfer from available funds the amount of $50,561.92 to be expended by the highway superintendent as the 4th year lease payment on the 2020 street sweeper, voted in Article 22 of the annual town meeting warrant of June 15th, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Article 6, I'm not sure.
yeah, that is the non-resident, vocational, tuition and transportation.
So the town had someone, a student move into town, actually in the springtime, who goes to a school that Dayton is not a member of. This is the town that the student was living in prior to, paid for her tuition the entire time, the entire past school year. Now in the current school year, it falls to Dayton because she's a resident of Dayton. A chunk of this money will end up coming back through Chapter 70 and transportation reimbursements. That money will end up going into free cash for next year, but you gotta spend it first and then you get it back.
we get all of it back?
It won't be.
Probably about 20% of the transportation costs, and then the Chapter 70 will probably be about $12,000, so it's a small portion back.
Out of the 90, we get back 12 and
Transportation,
Yeah, that 20% of 60.
maybe another 20, maybe 25 total.
Yeah.
How were the costs communicated to us? What I saw on this document it was 25 and 65, right?
Yep.
$65,000 and transportation. So
Yep.
how is that actually communicated? What those costs are?
So the transportation for the student that has been happening since the spring of 2023 from Dayton to the school actually cost the private town that had agreed to pay that through the end of the school year. That cost that town $65,000. Based on us learning that actually on September 5th that the town of Dayton now has this obligation. We worked with DR to cost out and see if we had any opportunity to reduce that through DR's transportation network, and we don't. They actually school superintendent, I had to reach out to three transportation providers that they work with, and yeah, we don't have any reductions. The quote came back at the same price.
And the transportation methods are dictated by, I don't know what the actual method
Yep.
is. They have an entire school bus come for this one student? So, or?
They probably have a van.
Yeah.
And to piggyback off what Bill is saying,
Yep.
do we get like an itemized thing, like how are they coming?
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah. The
65,000?
invoice.
Yeah.
And the invoice, the invoice will come directly to the town of Dayton, so yes, we don't, actually have an invoice yet because we don't have a funding source, but yeah, it'll come to us, it'll have all that.
Like $65,000 is a lot, and it's not even a whole year. I mean, is it
I
a
didn't know.
variant? What is driving?
Yeah, it is a whole, and there is a whole school, it is a whole school year. Yeah, like from the end of August. From the end of August to June, and that's really just the market rate. So.
Plus, the closest point that we can get this child to is substantially far away.
From where the school is.
Right. But we don't get the child to the school, we get the child to the point where a bus can pick her up.
Yeah.
Pick the child up.
Yeah.
So,
Wait, did you just say we don't get the child to school, we're getting to a bus stop?
Correct.
Oh my God. All right. I don't know how much it would cost to get into the school.
Can I ask
Go to
a
the
question?
moon for cheaper.
Is this student allowed to continue attending their school because they're a junior?
Yes. Yes.
so they moved to Dayton, was already going to school there, wants to finish up in Norfolk.
Yeah.
Didn't want to go to BP.
Actually, Bristol Aggie has a has an admission policy that they don't take rides in juniors.
Okay. And that's
So
where, that's
a
where,
complicating factor.
so the student applied there
Yes.
and wasn't allowed to go there. And now we, so-
Yes, I believe they have, but yeah, but but the state and the law says, that they have the ability to continue where they're at.
so the $65,000 to me sounds like a lot, but I guess if we're getting an itemized bill that says this is how much that the driver is paid, this is how much gas we're using, this is how much depreciation on the vehicle, are we getting that, or are we just getting a
It's
blanket
just gonna be a number of runs, right?
Yeah.
that's charged by the
It'll
run?
be 10 runs
Yes.
per week.
And they tell us what that costs for each run,
Yes.
and there's no other option,
No.
Uber.
Buy a car.
You got multiple.
I was gonna say, we could have bought this kid a car,
You got multiple.
Yes.
right?
She's a junior,
Right.
she's getting her license this year.
Yeah, here's a gift, we'd look great. Take it to college.
Right? Yeah, so, just for a little more background, well, Mike Serena, we've discussed this with the state for clarification on who can fund it, or who's required to fund it. And then as Mike said, he's got quotes on the buses themselves.
So we just get a little bit back.
We get probably 25 under the 90.
I just have one more question. So in regards to transportation, someone just mentioned that she's gonna be probably getting, or he or whoever they are, getting their license soon. Would that come back to us? Would somebody tell us, hey, we're not transporting this child anymore? They're transporting themselves.
I can. And
I don't wanna rely on the system telling us. I want us to be proactive.
$65,000, a student who is capable of driving themselves might be motivated to do so if we could subsidize their transportation costs at substantially less cost than what the school bus service would be. So if we paid somebody fuel and mileage reimbursement, just like a per diem, that,
Not for a student that just happens to live in town.
This transportation won't be a contract we're signing for 9 months. It's gonna be a month worth of service, a month worth of service, a month worth of service.
And also, because the student is only a junior, we have to plan to have this expense next year.
So where it says it was unforeseen, did we only get made aware of it in
On
September?
September 5th, yes. Yeah, like I think that was a Wednesday, I believe. That was when I was actually made aware.
And are we paying as go, or are we funding this fully?
This would be fully for the current year for, FY24. The last town stopped in June, and then so this picks up the full school year, full current school year.
Now, if we don't appropriate or we don't transfer the available funds, do we have a choice?
We're legally responsible.
We are legally responsible for
Yes.
student indictment.
I get the 25 grand, it's a $65,000 transportation fee, when it seems like we don't really have that many options. I don't know all the details about what the requirements are. Could you hire a limousine service? Could you hire a taxi service? It has to be a certified school bus or
Yes.
something like that. Okay.
Yes.
So, I think we've exhausted this conversation.
I don't think
Sounds like you already had exhausted.
The motion, we vote to transfer from available funds the amount of $90,000 to fund unforeseen educational and non-resident student vocational tuition and transportation costs as required by the State Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstaining.
And next year, this goes right into the school. We won't even see this because it'll be part of the school program.
It will be a separate
Our
line
gift
because
would
this
be
is
part of our town budget.
just, this doesn't go through DR, it's just a Dayton line.
Not for the regional budget.
That was one of the other arguments is, well, shouldn't this go through DR? And
Yeah, that makes sense.
it doesn't because of the school in Norton.
Thank you.
Article 7.
Can I
Go,
ask
go.
one more question then? So, transportation reimbursement, I know from the regional school district, the percentage is much higher than 20% for the transportation reimbursement. So we're not gonna get that rate for the transportation?
Because it isn't specifically regional transportation. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I wish I had
That'd be a
better.
much better rate, yeah?
Article 7 is requesting to use some of the free cash to fund more of the Main Street infrastructure and improvements. As Mike had noted, this 300 would put it a little over 1.1 million of the 2.5 that it'll take in total roughly to complete.
I've got one question. What was our initial expectation of the payment schedule for this?
That the town's portion of the project would be completed by 2025.
Is Article 7 gonna be rewritten to include the 300 grand, or is the town expected to cross-reference to this sheet?
So if you're looking at, there's the two sheets. The one that mentions the roughly 2.5 million is Mike's summary.
Yeah.
And the one that starts with this sheet is the actual
Yep.
draft warrant,
So-
so,
It doesn't have a dollar value. or at
So-
least-
Oh, that was that was the draft one, we updated it. Oh yeah, we sent an updated version yesterday.
Oh, okay. I have the package here, there's a lot of paper. I'm
Yeah.
fine, I'm fine.
okay.
You're ahead of me.
Like, is that FY 25 or calendar year 25?
Then oh my god. And and the like initially and the like oh my god, like initially calendar year 2025, but because we have to phase the project in the way we do right now, it and that will be contingent and on having all the funding in hand.
And the benefit of putting out this, and, 300,000 at this point?
So we don't have to like fund the whole crazy amount that we got.
A little upside.
Yeah, actually, like before we can do it in phases.
Okay.
So this would get us close to halfway funded.
Yes.
Yes, I'll work on. I make a motion, we go to transfer from available funds the sum of $300,000 to be expended by the highway superintendent for the Main Street infrastructure and roadway improvements.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The next, Article 8 is due to the increase in electric rates.
On the paperwork, is it listed under, raise and appropriate? Are we
Yes.
using it there?
Yeah. But yes, it's yes, it's like operational. So yeah, like it's RNA based on like it's part of our operating costs.
In this year's budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Typically, free cash transfers will be more one-time things, non-operational, but where this is your normal electric bill, normally we would say push it to the appropriate.
I make a motion, we vote to raise and appropriate the amount of $40,000 to Department Number 192, the Public Buildings and Property Maintenance, to provide additional funding in the fiscal year 2024 budget for energy and utility costs.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Article 9, does everyone know what OPEB is before we get into this?
Night.
Just for retirement.
It's basically health insurance for retirees. So there is an actuarial report that that tells us how much we're underfunded, just like the pensions. A lot of towns, Taunton's, I believe, is 30 million underfunded, somewhere around there. We've, over the last 5 to 10 years, have been transferring money every year, so Dayton is actually a lot better shape than a lot of towns. Recommended 125 a year by the bonding companies. 135 into the budget, and then in essence, wait till special town and see where free cash is, and if there's free cash, it's,
What's the what's the unfunding now? What's the delta?
My treasurer is here and
I don't have the unfunded liability in front of me. I'll try and get it though. I do have the GASB 7475 report. I just didn't bring it with me tonight, so I'll try and pull it up for you right now.
So the 125 recommendation has presumably margin on it, like a safety factor for the town.
yeah,
How much is that?
I mean, we're still not coming to a point where we're catching up to the underfunding amount, but it's a step in the right direction. So there are a lot of towns that don't fund it at all. So Dayton is, or has been, taking that step to fund that line.
I'm surprised that you don't have that figure right on the tip of your tongue, like.
yeah, no, that's in the treasurer's function and
Yeah.
support.
So that unfunding would be a delta of so many dollars, right? It's based on computation of retirement benefits and the rest of it over a certain number of years and
Current
all that.
retirees,
I worked
future
that for that.
retirees.
I've worked that for the CalPERS, I don't know if you heard of CalPERS, that's a California,
Pension system.
and because they're really in very bad shape,
yeah.
not just recently. So I used that as a model to try to understand what that meant to be unfunded in terms of that. So that's why I'm interested. I mean, the amount of unfunding is important because do you ever catch up? You know, that's the problem. So,
We can table this for all,
okay.
okay?
Before we table it, Nancy has something she'd like to say.
I'll have to go back to my office and get it. Unfortunately, the email's down for mobile.
The OPEB funding that you're talking about only deals with insurance benefits going forward for retired employees. It does not include retirement. It's insurance, the group health insurance and the group life insurance. Bristol County Retirement has its own unfunded liability, and when you pay your county assessment, you get several bills from the county. That takes care of retirement for currently retired people and also the anticipation going forward. So the number of employees you have at a given time affects both what you pay to Bristol County for future retirement and then for your own OPEB, assuming they're going to stay long enough to retire and get insurance benefits. Bristol County retirement is projected to be fully funded by 2035 at the current rate, based on the total number of employees in the system. But OPEB locally is only insurance, it's not retirement.
Thank you. You still want to table it?
Well, if you
And,
wanna wait for-
I do actually have the information. I was able to put up the total OPEB liability. Is $9.57 million.
What is it? 9?
9.75 million.
Yeah. Actually 5.7, yeah. Yeah, so 9,571,284.
That's the excess liability over what we've already set aside.
Yeah. Yeah, here's, yeah, the gas piece. 74 and 75.
9,571,245?
284.
84. 9,571,284. That's the liability.
Yes.
That number came out of the financial statement of the audit.
Yeah, those are FY 23, I guess, 74 and 75, so those are very updated.
Yeah. So
That liability is for the county, not for just Dayton?
No, that's just like,
That's just Dayton.
Yep, you're like 9.5.
Yep, that's it.
No, I said that's our assessment.
right. Just for that entire piece.
And we gotta pay 90,000.
That's, so we
Sounds
could,
like a deal to me.
yeah, we could do what a lot of towns do and they ignore it. And eventually the bills, that 9.5 million is gonna come due. But we have been putting aside, roughly 125,000 a year for the last few years.
Yeah, that sounds like that. Yeah, you're never gonna catch up. Not at that rate. It's like trying to put a fire out with a, this one. It's working.
We do have in our OPEB trust fund, we have just under around $1.8 million.
Yeah, 1.8, yeah, 1,805,000.
Yeah, I knew that, pretty good.
And so the 9.5 is after, would be our liability
After the one.
Above
after
and
the
beyond.
1.8 is already spent.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got about 20%, close to 20% set aside. Like I said, it's about 20% more than a lot of towns.
I make a motion, we go to transfer from available funds the sum of $90,000 to the other post-employment benefits liability trust fund established to cover the unfunded actuarial liability for retirees' health care and life insurance benefits.
Second.
Any other questions on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Article 10 would be to transfer $250,000 from free cash to reduce the tax rate.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
As I look at the addition of $1,758, once we are through with the articles as presented, we have remaining free cash of $739,392.54. And later on, I'll talk about some of that money. But I noticed this is a Board of Selectmen tax assessor's office generated article. And I was curious as to the pluses and well, it says it here. Is that town administrator? I'm sorry. I was just wondering the pros and cons of increasing that number from 250 to 350,000.
Well, so to be honest, I don't like this practice to begin with because it's artificially lowering the tax rate to the residents, and using free cash is really just a one-time funding source. So as our free cash starts drying up, we're not going to be able to have anything available to reduce the tax rate. So we came up with the amount of 250 to slowly start reducing the amount that we are upfronting to reduce the tax rate, so it's not such a hard burden when we have no free cash to put towards the tax rate, then the tax rates are really going to increase. So by reducing it just to 250 gives still some tax break to the residents, but is also slowly not giving as much of a tax break, so we can slowly start coming to a true tax levy that we should be at for the residents.
Nancy, Serena, how much did we, free cash did we put in last year?
Last year, I thought it was
I total about $600,000. So yeah.
because it was the 360 for the bond payment and then the 220, 230 for the snow and ice as well. So having those, 600,000 is for this small town a lot, to have as the reduction. So we already, are putting in the 46,000 for the snow and the 250. So in a sense, it will be closer to 300,000 as a total when you add in the snow reduction. But, you know, we're just really trying to be cautious because going forward, especially with, you know, when we talk about the BP debt coming down the line, free cash is really gonna dry up. So I was, cautionary to Mr. Mullen that, you know, I wanted it a little bit less. I know I didn't even want it at 250, but we came to 250 as, you know, to give some relief to the residents. But, you know, next year it possibly will be less than 250.
So one more question, free cash,
Yes,
it's a pad in case of emergency.
correct.
So are you comfortable with the 737.6?
Yeah, so, the other thing that I suggest was, you know, that the town should really try to move into using the majority of their free cash at the end of the year when, at the June town meeting. And that way you have an entire fiscal year to see, you know, unexpected things that come up, emergencies, repairs, you know, the vocational student, just things that we're just not aware of when we are budgeting. And then we have that entire year to see exactly, you know, where we are and what is needed. So I am really hoping that we can have a large free cash holdback until June and to almost try to use the majority of the money in June going forward, not to, you know, use it all when we get, you know, when we get the money, because we don't know what's gonna happen in, you know, in the next months between now and June. So we do need something to help us.
Right, but our certified cash, when do we get that result back?
So it was
Yeah,
the,
it's late.
well,
Last week.
yeah, I mean,
actually,
I don't think
really,
that's late.
yeah, we're like a very, very, very early, I mean, in terms of having that figure, we're probably one of the earliest towns that get that.
It's technically not due until the end of September.
Okay.
And then I officially closed the books in the middle of September, which was late to me because we had a lot of things come in right before I wanted to close the books that extended the time period and just, you know, I'm not sure. But next year I am going to be a little more stricter with the cutoff line, and because I want free cash even sooner before the end of September to know where we are, to have it certified.
There have been times when it's come right up against the special town meeting.
Yeah. So, you know, my first year closing the books and, you know, dealing with everybody and different departments and everybody getting used to the new guidelines or, you know, the new timelines. I gave a little bit of leeway for some unexpected things that came up, but next year it's going to be a little more of a hard cutoff, and then that way our rep, Tom Guilfoyle at the state, is able, you know, the small towns are easier for him to do, so he likes to get those out of the way before he gets backed up with everyone else. And especially with our town meeting being, you know, the end of October, the beginning of November last year, we try to get it done as soon as possible so we can, you know, plan and have time for these meetings and discussions.
Can I ask a fundamental question about this, because I've never heard this concept before, of taking money that was from the tax base, right, ends up in free cash. Say if you go ahead and transfer this money to reduce
To reduce the tax
to
rate.
reduce the tax rate or take any other action relative thereto. So, what, I don't get it. You're trying to be really, I mean, I'm stupid in terms of this concept, I agree that. But you're going to be extra nice to the people of Dayton and take some of the money that was brought in, and then you're going to reduce the tax rate? I don't get it. What's the advantage of that? What does that do for the town? I know what it does for the taxpayers. It reduces, or could reduce their tax rate, right?
We have a lot of people in this community that are really against the law with paying their taxes. We are seeing that people leaving the town. We are seeing it by a lot of the seniors converting their land to solar farms or selling it to developers.
But it reduces the tax rate across the board, doesn't it?
I believe so.
So it
Bill,
doesn't-
basically, if your total budget is 20,250,000, this article would reduce that to 20 million. So you'd be raising and appropriating 20 million instead of 20,250,000. So that 250, rather than being billed out to everybody on their tax bills, now stays in. And spread it over.
So it goes back to the taxpayer.
Yes.
Right, to make it,
So, but what happens when you get into a crunch, especially say, with the BP payments gonna ramp up in a year or two or something?
And that's what Sarita's talking about, that's why she doesn't want to do more than that.
So has this been about 250K per year mostly kind of thing for the past, say?
I would say in past years it's been more, because we've done things like, use free cash to pay the police bond, things along those lines. So the same thing there.
Okay, so you're comfortable, was it Serena?
Serena, yes.
Yeah, that the free cash next year, say, or the year after, is going to be able to absorb this extra 250K going back?
I think this year it's able to
Okay.
absorb the 250, and then next year, I'm not 100%
Next year it's
sure.
another year, yeah.
Yeah,
So this,
Okay.
by doing it this way, Bill, it is a one-time.
Right.
We could possibly have the opportunity again next year, or we possibly could not.
Right. Okay.
And this is for 2024 or 2023?
This would be for the 24 year.
2024. So if we didn't appropriate it, we'd end up with just under $1 million in
Free cash, yeah,
remaining, yeah.
remaining, and
And then we would get on to what you call a true tax base sooner.
Correct.
And the reason we wouldn't want to do that is what?
just as the selectmen had mentioned about.
it's basically giving some money back to the taxpayers. We took an awful lot in, we don't need it at all. This year we don't, so we're gonna give some of it back.
Well,
And that's to simplify it.
So, because I'm new, we have free cash of $1,766,194 currently. And where did that come from? Was that we had a budget, the departments got their money that they needed to operate, and then they had leftover money, it went back into free cash?
So expense wise, it was roughly half of free cash came from underspent expenses, and half came from revenue that exceeded
The estimate.
the estimate, the budget.
Revenue.
Yeah, because we present a balanced budget where we have our revenues, because we have to estimate revenues a whole year ahead of time. So we have our estimated revenues and then all of the departments' requests for expenses. So when we present the budget in June, it's a zero,
Zero-based budget.
they're balanced. And what we expect to come in for the revenues is balancing exactly what we intend to spend. So when they spend less and then we bring in more revenue, those two items is what creates the free cash.
free cash.
But then there's also other things that deduct from free cash. So it depends on how much we have in our outstanding receivables, which is what residents owe us for taxes. And if we have any negative, like illegal negative deficits. So one of them, I guess a couple of times has been like the police detail account, because we pay out the police officers for their details, and then we wait for the vendors to pay us. So there's always a little bit of timing lag there. So any funds, as Peter mentioned earlier, the snow budget is the only one that can legally be in the deficit, and then anything else that's in the deficit reduces our free cash additionally.
Thank you.
We want to get the money back.
Yes.
The money's better in people's bank accounts than it is in the town's bank accounts.
Especially while we can.
And then if you leave it in an account and the account looks fat, it becomes a target for somebody to try to spend the money on something.
Yeah, in later articles, we'll have a discussion about that, because I don't know what this HCA cannabis thing, but we'll wait till we get there.
Nancy, do you still want to say something?
The Board of Assessors was not contacted about this article, so we can't make a recommendation. I'm going to speak as a former selectman and as a longtime FinCom member, and the history of this town, all right? And let's start out with where we were at doing budgets last year. Everyone talked about zero-based budgeting because the concern was there was money left over. And there was strong feeling was that's because the people were overtaxed. We have always tried to apply something to reduce the tax rate. Whether it's 250 or 350, I gotta tell you, it's pennies. There is gonna be no significant drop in anyone's tax bills by doing this. But by the same token, we've always done it. It's a gesture, okay? I remember years when it was so bad, so tight, we couldn't do that. Those were the years when we were being over-assessed over $1 million each year because of the way the regional high school was assessing things. When that was discovered, and that $1 million shifted, we had over $2 million in free cash. And I said at the time, this is not going to go away. So personally, I would support doing something like this now. I do not support not doing anything and holding that free cash. That's not what the people in this town are used to. I understand the situation with the bond issues, BC, AS, and BP. And yes, we gotta be concerned about that. But to hold on to this amount of cash, 250, 350, pick a number, and not do something, at least make an attempt for the people in this town when we've been saying all year long in formulating budgets. So, gotta put the money where the mouth is, folks. Now, the other concern I have is at the department head meeting, I asked how much money there was coming back in free cash. Ballpark, 600,000, 700,000, 1.7. I would like to know where that came from. Now, as an assessor, I can tell you, excise taxes on vehicles, we get to keep that. That's a big. Yes, balance is left over in budgets. Money that comes in through local revenue, permit fees, building fees, stormwater fees, picture fee, all right? That information should be broken down and shared with everybody, quite frankly, because the people in this town need to know where it comes from, all right? If you agree to do something tonight on that warrant and take it to the people, at least you're showing you're making an effort. The conservative approach, my opinion, is give something to the taxpayers because you've been telling them this as you formulated budgets. Give them something. I realize it's not lots of money. It's an effort. By the same token, I certainly support holding on to what we can because we have not voted on the bond issues. We don't know if there are going to be debt exclusions. We don't know anything about that. Now, the other thing you need to know is during the year we have a reserve account. There's money in the reserve account if something breaks down or something happens. That's not a huge problem. If it's a huge problem, we have to have a special town meeting and we can go to free cash. But that reserve account will cover items that you don't have to go to town meeting for, that FinCom and Board of Selectmen together can figure out, can we take the money out of that, okay? But to just hold that money, no, especially since we were told it was going to be around 700, it's 1.7 million.
You
I
know,
almost fell off my chair.
you know, we're actually agreeing. Like, sounds like you're trying to convince us of that.
No.
We agree.
No, I want you to know the history. I
Alright.
want you to know what the people in this town, based on my experience over 20 years, when you make a commitment to the people in this town, and I certainly think we have this year, we collectively, so I think that this article, whatever number you come up with, I think it should be supported.
And one thing before, just so you get an educational moment, reserve fund is an account that's the reserve fund. It's funded with $55,000, and that's an account that we have the ability to transfer from in case of emergency.
And that's what the balance is now, about 55,000.
55,000, yeah. Sorry.
Yes, several things. One, yes, Mrs. Goulart. The number I was told with free cash before it was sent out for certification was $788,000. I too am curious as to how it went from 788 to 1.7 million. Secondly, regarding free cash, now if that money's held, what is its rate of return while it's being held? Is it a higher interest rate than stabilization, or is it the same rate?
It depends on how it's been invested by the treasurer, but they usually have, you never leave a lot of money in the, I'll call it checking account.
Correct.
You have the money tied up in savings accounts. And I can tell you when I was the assistant treasurer at Dayton Hills Regional, every payday, we would transfer the net payroll from our savings account into our checking account, because the savings accounts, so to speak, up there is E&D, always pay a higher rate. So the town treasurer, or in my case, assistant district treasurer, we would invest the savings account money in the accounts that paid the most, all right? So as I say, you never leave it sitting and checking, because that pays diddly. So you would just make a transfer each time. But that's part of what the treasurer does in investing the funds.
Now, stabilization, that takes a 2/3 vote. And if a problem came up in June, we could vote to take money to deal with any unforeseen emergencies that were beyond the 50,000 in reserve. Is that correct?
No, you would go to free cash, you would not touch stabilization. If something happened during the fiscal year and all the money in reserve was used up, and the whole heating system down at the town hall died, gotta replace the whole system, you would go to, how much do we get in free cash? We get schedule a special town meeting, because there's no money in reserve, there's no money left in the budget that we can get from anywhere. Special town meeting, and you get it out of free cash, not stabilization, not capital. No, those are the really sacred savings accounts. So you're still holding free cash.
I'm looking at right now $739,000. I am not going to support leaving that all in free cash. So we got basically 3 ways to put that money. Either reduce the tax rate, stabilization, or capital stabilization. And with the problems we have, with a South Fire Station that is deplorable, and it's amazing that those people are working under the conditions that they are. You have at Dayton Elementary School that 2 months ago was 64th on the list. It went to 32nd on the list. We are now 16th on that list. And this Friday, they're going to release the next 8 on that list. And that $150,000 that was put in for feasibility studies, if either one of those projects starts moving forward, isn't going to cut it. So we're going to need money in capital stabilization. That is a concern. You know, $739,000. I doubt we're going to have that type of catastrophic event between now and June.
Thanks.
Answer for Lenny, Mr. Reynolds says we get between 3 and 4%.
I'm sorry?
You asked what we get on a return. It's between 3 and 4%, he says.
On which?
On our free cash, it's sitting in
Free
cash.
What is it for stabilization?
I don't know, I just texted him.
Is the stabilization of 55,000?
I imagine it's probably the same.
It's all invested in,
There's also.
it's all invested in like savings accounts, with the exception of the checking account. And that's what I said, what we would do at this high school was, the money, we pay your assessments, we put it in there. And each time we needed to pay a warrant or a payroll, we would transfer the net amount to meet those requirements. But you always leave the bulk of your money in the interest accounts that pay the highest interest. So I'm guessing that's what the treasurer is doing here. Okay, there's special accounts that are invested at the same kind of rates.
That's what he's saying, but if it's what it's not.
The impact is going to be insignificant.
Wait,
are we trying to figure out what the value is gonna be?
So
on
let's
this?
get back to Article 10.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion on the 250?
I'll make a
Yeah.
motion that we vote to transfer from available funds, the sum of $250,000 to reduce the tax rate.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. We'll get back to the discussion later on about stabilization funds and everything, but
I hope not.
Article 11, to see every 5 years there's a recertification of the power plant and aquarium. The cost of that is $28,000. So that's
The Aquarius 13,000 and Dayton's Power is another 15,000.
for a total of 28.
And those are our two highest
Taxpayers.
taxpayers.
All right, we're just rubber stamping this.
Any questions on it?
Just a second, Mr. Moore. I'd like to address this article.
Sure.
No. Bill Moore, Board of Assessors.
I think you all know me. The more things change, the more things stay the same. We've got 1.7 million in free cash, and the assessor's office is coming to take another bite out of free cash. I want to say that I'm sorry. I was appalled when I saw this. This is the exact same situation as what happened before. Well, not exact same, but a situation where this money is absolutely required. This is not optional. If we don't spend this money, we're not going to be able to tax these two, the two largest taxpayers in town. It will also most likely result in an increase in taxes that will more than cover the $28,000. But I don't feel it's the proper way to be doing business is to not tell the people what our budget is up front. I did make this clear, prior to Board of Assessor meetings. We discussed it today, and I think that basically what happened here was a mistake. It was not something that was done intentionally. Because it comes up every 5 years, we have a new full-time assessor. She simply missed the fact that this should have gone into our budget at the beginning of the year. I have requested that going forward, this never happen again, that this should be in our budget in the beginning of the year, and we shouldn't be coming at the end of the year to try to clip a little more free cash to get into our budget. As you all know, this is what I was so upset about and why I ran to be in the Board of Assessors in the first place. So I just want to say, I'm sorry. This is absolutely necessary. We need it. And that's it. I don't know if you guys have any questions.
How do you put a tickler in the, calendar so that every 5 years?
So it doesn't have to be every 5 years. It needs to be at the beginning of every year. We need to say, okay, might come up. I understand we also have a full town reevaluation coming up, which is going to be very much more. That was horrible English. It's going to be much more expensive. I believe it's coming up in 2 years. I believe that's what we said this morning. So we need to be aware. Our department needs to do a better job of presenting our budget at the time that we're presenting our budget to know who is going to be needing reevaluation during that year.
So Bill, when that full town reevaluation plan is, that's going to be included?
That will be in our budgetary request for that year, yes.
So are you saying that all properties are evaluated at that 5-year mark?
Every 5 years is required by the state. We need to go through, is it 5 or 10? It's 5, I believe.
I thought it was
5, yeah. It's 5, every 5 years we're required by the state to reevaluate every single property in town. It's a full revaluation as opposed to in between
But
year.
every property is not on the same 5-year schedule?
Yes,
It is.
yes.
So if we're
No.
reevaluating these.
Oh, Nancy's
No,
correcting
the
me.
power plant and
No,
the,
she's talking residential properties, I believe.
but when you say all, that includes all.
Yes.
So we pull out the residential, that's the 5 years, and I think the date we heard today was FY '26. We think that what's coming up.
I thought she said 25, 25, 20, yeah,
25,
26.
26, somewhere in there. We gotta check it out.
And the commercial properties on different.
not the commercial property, only these two, the utilities, I'll call them, the power plant and the water plant. Those are the ones that come up on a different 5-year schedule. Okay? But to answer your question, sir, about how do we have a tickler in the file, what I said at the meeting today is, now that we know that we're coming here tonight to do this, when the FY24 budget is finalized, which is after town meeting, there will be a note put in it that in such and such a year, okay, it's gonna be done, this money we're gonna get to do it. And each following successive budget year, there needs to be a note carried forward that says, in 3 years, in 2 years, in 1 year, that we had a change in personnel. And the person who would have been most likely to raise the flag passed away, okay? She did the job for many, many years, and that's what happened. And we have new personnel in the office, and the board is new. So, but we did talk about how to notate the budget in the years ahead. So we have a countdown to the next 5 years.
So fundamentally, we're saying is we're trying to fix it going forward, that I hope this will never happen again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions on that?
I make a motion, we vote to transfer from available funds the sum of $28,000 to have Aquaria LLC and Dayton Power LLC appraised for the fiscal year 2025 5-year certification revaluations as required by the Department of Revenue.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Guys have it. Next article is bucket truck repair item for $15,000. The continuous rotary joint.
How much use do we get out of that bucket truck?
Running, we have a high mortality rate of trees in our town right now. It's a pretty good sized list of severe trees that need to be addressed. The truck's still in service, it's just not fully functioning.
The truck's not-
How far you can rotate with that when you're up in it.
So if we put a $15,000 piece of equipment onto a 2011 truck, how long is the truck gonna last?
We just got it last year. Because we probably can't afford a new one, that's excess of 300,000.
So we still have years of life on the truck, hopefully.
Yes, yes.
And how long is how long is this boom gonna last? Is it gonna exceed the truck now?
I know, they should stay together, yeah.
Where's your crystal ball?
Well, I mean, if we did purchase another vehicle, at some point in the future, then this piece of equipment would go along with the truck, right?
Yes, yeah, it doesn't fit anything else.
Yeah.
That's one reason why the tag is up. We did rebuild that part against the manufacturer's wishes, and it did fail. Manufacturer would not rebuild that part because of liability.
Yeah. Okay. It sounds like a critical piece of equipment for a town like ours.
This is the only bucket truck?
It's only in first.
Okay, so since we've had that bucket truck, the town has seen savings, I bet, instead of
Just
contracting out
just
this
the
work.
availability of resolving problems as they arise is quite dollar value. So it's a great asset, a nice
For immediate
nice
action.
piece that's in our toolbox, yes.
Keeps trees out of the road, keeps trees off of the power lines, keep trees,
Yes.
those types of things? Yep. I like that.
Thank you, Tom.
Anyone have any other questions for Tom? Take a motion?
I make a motion, we vote to transfer from available funds the sum of $15,000 to fund necessary repairs to the Highway Department 2011 Ford bucket truck.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Guys have it? All right. Article 13, you need you need a recommendation from us on this because it's establishing a fund.
Yes, so yeah, like I would, like I would recommend that we do have a recommendation because that does affect the whole picture.
Yeah.
Is this also to make it much more obvious to the community how these funds are coming in and where they're going?
Yes. You're probably both knowing how the money's going out and where it's coming from, how much it's coming in. So I don't know if everybody had a chance to go through everything this afternoon regarding this and the opioid, but in essence, this would take the money coming in from the cannabis side of things, it would go into a fund of its own, and then at town meeting, we would vote on how or when, or basically how that money is spent. So it wouldn't sit in a department's budget, it wouldn't sit in a savings account, well, it is kind of a savings account, but it would be set aside so that the spending is, the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. Good way to.
But before it ever became free cash, wouldn't that be some sort of fund that could be used to reduce property taxes
So
for people who are struggling?
So initially, when the impact money was received by the town, they put it into a special revenue fund, but the state has come out and said that it cannot be in a special revenue fund. It was a few years ago, maybe like 2019, 20, maybe around, oh yeah, because it's definitely before COVID, so maybe like 2018 or 2019, the state came out and said that it had to be within a special stabilization fund, not a special revenue fund. There's different rules and regulations, and so we are requesting now, so once I realized that it was just in a special revenue and not in a stabilization, that's when I requested for it to be established into a stabilization with the DOR guidelines, that's where that money is to be funded into, and then to vote, there are specific guidelines on what the cannabis impacts money can be used for, particularly. I do not believe it can be a function of reducing the tax rate. I
And
think
who decided that? That was the state
the
said
state guidelines.
money has to be used. So what are some of the things it can be used for?
So I know in my previous district, they use it for things that were directly impacted. So we had a few dispensaries in town, and it created a lot more like traffic and a lot more use of the police vehicles. So they were able to in turn purchase a police vehicle through the stabilization. But they brought in a lot more money than what One Connection is currently bringing in. So this $36,000 that is being requested also to fund. So when I had to close the books, I moved the money out of the special revenue and into the general fund on the guidelines of our DOR rep to let it close out through free cash because it was not in the proper fund. And then now that it's within the free cash amount, to take that exact amount and to move it into the stabilization, which is the same process for the opioid money. That's the exact amount that we had received that closed out that now we're just taking back.
So we got this money from
One Connection.
One Connection for revenue.
Yep.
So we're just moving money that we got, we're not.
Into the proper fund.
Yeah, so it got moved into this 1.7, which, roughly half of that is revenue, the increased revenue. A portion of that increased revenue is this 46,000 that being requested to throw into a stabilization fund.
And is that earmarked inside the stabilization as only being able to be spent on certain things?
Yes, so each stabilization is a specific bank account, so the funds that we have are completely separate. On the books, it has its own fund, and the bank account, it's its own. So the interest that they earn goes directly into that same stabilization.
And what they can spend it on is already lined out, there's
Yes.
instructions on,
There's
can't
CR.
spend it on this, can spend it on that.
Correct. And that will just be, at town meeting, that the money would have to be voted out of the stabilization to use or within the guidelines.
just to make sure I understand it too, but I'm assuming both of these would be along the same lines as regular stabilization capital, it's 2/3.
Yes.
2/3 vote, so 2/3 of the people at the town meeting have to vote yes to approve an article to spend money out of the fund.
I make a motion, we vote to establish a new cannabis stabilization fund in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 70, Section 5B, the purpose of which will be to establish clear accounting and tracking of revenues generated from host community agreements between the town and marijuana establishments and of expenditures of said funds approved by town meeting.
Second.
Just to be clear, this is the finance committee recommending the creation of the account. Any questions or other comments? All in favor?
Hang on. What's the alternative to this?
There, really.
Yeah.
Is it an alternative? Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
We'd have to give the money back.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
If I'd known that, I would have tried to shorten the discussion.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Guys have it. So that just is our recommendation to create the fund.
That's Article 13.
13. Okay.
And then 14 is on the guideline from town council to have a separate vote for the effective date of the stabilization fund, which will be retro to July 1st, 2023, which is the first day of the current fiscal year. We initially had them together, and legal counsel suggested to separate it.
Town council did because of the because of voting thresholds to actually establish stabilization is actually 2/3, but to then appropriate into is only majority. So yeah, he wanted everything all as his own article, so when we get to town meeting, they can be consistent.
Just a point of clarification. There are two stabilizations. This would refer to both of them?
No, this would be a third stabilization fund.
It's a regular, you've got your regular stabilization, capital stabilization, and right now the recommended cannabis stabilization.
Okay.
And a reserve.
So Article 14 is basically just saying
Restating.
if Article 13
Passes.
passes at town meeting,
And we gotta
it would
do
go retroactive to July 1st, 23.
I make a motion, we vote to accept the fourth paragraph of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 5B, which allows the dedication without further appropriation of all or a percentage of not less than 25% of particular fees, charges, or receipts to a stabilization fund established under said section of the general laws, to be effective for the fiscal year beginning on July 1st, 2023.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Guys have it?
All right, I see $36,000.
Yeah, I was just gonna
over here,
ask.
but not in the article that we just discussed.
So 36 is the dollar amount that would be going in there, but it doesn't need to be in the specific article. Is that?
Yes, that is what was recommended by town council.
Is that dollar
So
amount's
yeah, when
gonna
I
change?
initially drafted the article, we actually had a dollar amount in there. But town council came back and actually said that we don't have to have a dollar amount in there.
It's just whatever the amount that accumulates,
Exactly.
just gets deposited automatically.
Yes.
And they're going back to July 1st.
But now that 36 is the previous money that went into free cash. So
Yep.
now we're pulling it out. Do we not need an article to pull it out of free cash?
Because that money is still going in. it's gonna, until we pass this bill,
Yeah,
money is
that's-
still going into that, so it'll be greater than the 36.
I would suggest in this vote to have, when you guys, you say the motion, to have that
Okay.
specific dollar amount.
At that point.
Yes, within
That
the
makes
motion.
To see if the town will vote to accept the fourth paragraph general law, allows the
Yeah.
allocation of
Yeah, it'd be in the motion.
Because they are collecting money right up until town meeting.
to a stabilization.
That's why we don't wanna put a dollar value, cause it's gonna be
It
a larger
should be
value.
higher, right.
Yeah.
So anything that they're collected from July 1st on is gonna be in your operating revenues.
And Article 15 has this stabilization fund created on July 1st. However, we do have to account for the $36,000 that has been essentially carried over from FY23 and allocated presently in free cash.
Oh, I guess.
So we do have to have a vehicle, like i.e. through a motion, like on Article 15 to appropriate the $36,000 that we have actually carried over from FY23 into the stabilization fund as well.
So do we put the 36,000 from fiscal year 23 receipts plus the additional receipts from
Yes.
fiscal year 24?
Yes, so their contract says that they pay annually, so we get the money like June 20th. So,
Right.
yeah, we get it right at the end of the fiscal year.
Oh,
So then that check will just automatically be deposited into the stabilization fund.
so all that's going in now is the 36 from last year's receipts.
For the initial deposit into the stabilization is the money that we received at this past June.
Okay.
And then the June coming up will just automatically go in there.
Oh, okay, so it's a lump sum payment.
Yes, they pay once a month.
So we do or don't want to a number in there.
Yeah, I'm not, how do we get last year's into,
The fiscal year 23 receipts from this.
Well, so now it's just, since it's just part of free cash, it's just part of available funds.
But I think
Yeah.
what Peter is saying, we want the public to have a definitive amount of what we collected in fiscal year 23.
and we're not saying that we're saying we're gonna take fees from July 1st to 23 forward into it, but we're not saying that we're taking the
Fees from
free
fiscal
cash.
I agree completely, and that is why our initial article had it and how it changed. And yeah, it's missing that component.
We can announce a change, like at the town meeting, we can change the value, right? As long as the people vote on it. So if, like, the stabilization fund has $36,000 available to move into it now, but at the town meeting, it's gonna be higher than that, because we're still accumulating more money. We can just proclaim what the new value is at the meeting, everybody votes, that becomes what the article is.
I'm not gonna know what the new value is.
Yeah, is the 36, is that a community impact fee?
Yeah, that's the host agreement,
Posted, is that different than a community?
and it is different
Impact
than the
fee?
impact fee. correct?
Okay.
Never mind.
Even,
I thought we were gonna know the value.
even if you had a certain dollar amount attached to it, and somebody read it as such, any person on the floor can make a motion to amend.
Right.
When will we find out what the value is? And at some point we have to know, because it has to get into the account.
Well, she said it just, they
Again,
only make a payment once a year in June.
And our meeting is in October, so we'll have to use that June number.
All right, so we are creating the account now. They make a payment once a year. So is the money all from June or just sitting somewhere right now?
It's sitting in free cash.
Okay. Are we gonna populate the stabilization account from free cash now?
Yes.
Okay, and then next June, that's when we're gonna make
It'll
another
just
deposit.
automatically go in there.
So these values are real. So, I mean,
Yes.
right now, the only amount we can put in there is the amount that's written here.
Correct.
It's not gonna change, so therefore, we can put it in the article with no risk.
Yes.
That
that true? Okay.
And then the account's open, so when you know the money, it just goes right in.
Correct, yep, so I only need the initial dollar amount because it's in available funds.
Currently.
Yes.
Including the
I think,
vote
I think I'm caught up
to
to you.
transfer from available funds.
Yeah, town council changed it.
23.
And dedicate
What's it called?
impact fees paid.
Uh,
And having,
fee.
and having the language of the article changed accordingly.
Yep.
And has an ability to allow both things to happen within the article.
Right.
So what
Yeah,
we'll
that
do
makes
is,
sense.
Alright, that makes sense?
is say, this is how much we're.
Alright, so, speaking with the chair,
And then in 24.
we have the ability to amend Article 15, to say, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds the sum of $36,042.
And 40 cents.
And yes, thank you, Bill, and 40 cents, so and dedicate, dedicate community impact fees, so like, that would include both. That would, alright, so that would have, so on Article 15, the beginning of that would have the transfer from available funds of that 36 grand. And plus, and that and the, and dedicated community impact fees paid, blah, 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 blah.
That's perfect.
Yeah, and having that all encompassing would allow, and basically everything that we intend and have to happen, if that makes sense.
Do you guys need to make a motion on that?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. You wanna do it tonight, Mike?
Yeah, because we do have to post
Warrant.
the warrant on Monday,
Okay.
so that would be ideal if it's not too much trouble.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to amend Article 15 to read, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds to dedicate community impact fees paid by marijuana establishments operating within the town, collected in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 94G, Section 3, to the Cannabis Stabilization Fund established under Article 13, effective for fiscal year 2024, beginning on July 1st, 2023, or take any other action relative thereto.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Everybody clear on that? Any other questions?
And we don't have to vote on it.
We do vote, because now it's their vote on the article, now it's our turn to recommend or not.
Okay.
So I would say take a motion to approve based on Selectman Hull's recommendations and what was voted on by the Board of Selectmen. If anybody needs that rewritten, read, just let me know.
Nope.
I will second that.
Somebody else want to make the motion?
I will make a motion that we vote to,
Transfer from available.
oh, do I have to read it? I'm just
Um,
gonna say the article that you just read.
As read.
The Board of Selectmen just provided
As read.
as read. Thank you.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, you guys have it. Similar, basically the same thing, just transfer trade cannabis for opioid.
I make a motion, we vote to support creation of a special purpose opioid stabilization Stabilization Fund in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 5B, to which receipts from the Massachusetts State Subdivision for Statewide Opioid Settlement Funds shall be appropriated annually to be used to supplement and strengthen resources available to communities and families for substance use, disorder prevention, harm reduction, treatment, and recovery.
Second?
Any other questions on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Let's have it. And now, the fund that we just recommended creating, Article 17, would be to transfer from free cash the monies that had come in as special revenue, now sitting in free cash.
I make the motion, we vote to support transfer from available funds the amount of $10,000, or $10,114.89 to the opioid settlement stabilization fund established at the October 30th, 2023 special town meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Now, is this a one-time settlement, or is this gonna be an annual settlement, or,
Yeah, like we will receive revenue for about 2038. Geez, I can't even say that because it's so 2038.
in approximately the same, I mean, it's gonna fluctuate?
It's gonna be smaller, because there's only 33,000 more over 14 years. It's gonna be smaller than this 10,000.
The $10,000 happened all at once. That was basically it basically was the first big installment, and then from there, then from there forward, like with the opioid distributor, it's about $2,200 a year-ish.
Right.
And so, and then the
Like
Janssen
33,000
one.
during the whole.
Yeah, the whole, the whole time frame.
Doesn't seem like very much.
No, based on the impact that everything has had, no. It's not even close.
Big Pharma has it. They should give us more.
Just to update the free cash, the remaining free cash going forward after the town meeting, assuming everything passes, would be $739,392.54.
That's the 737 plus the delta from
Yeah.
the police surveillance?
Correct. Any other articles that you needed on?
That was it. Thanks for
730.
Chairman.
Do we have any desire to move any of that 739,000 to special town meeting into either stabilization or capital stabilization?
We don't have any articles drafted for.
I understand that, but the last article says, I believe, Article 23, act upon any other business that lawfully may be introduced. The fact that it's not included, does that mean it cannot be introduced?
That will be a question for the moderator.
I don't think you can put a, you have to put articles on the warrant. We can't do anything that's not already on the warrant. I mean, they're saying anything that legally might be, just talking housekeeping stuff, not moving large amounts of money, no.
It is, just for you guys, it is fairly common at this special town meeting in the fall that some money gets moved into capital stabilization and or regular stabilization. the state recommends between 10 and 15% of your budget be in stabilization. We're right around that, we're close. There wasn't an article in this time, so, but I mean, if we've got the ability in the spring,
And it's not possible to bring it up on the floor.
Because what's gonna happen is as soon as we get to that article, somebody's gonna do a motion to adjourn, and it's gonna be. Motion to dissolve, that's it.
So our budget quote will come?
It's in the wording that talks about
We want to have 10%.
having to give the people, fail to warn the people.
We got over 3.
And that's why I was just discussing these more. That's what it is, the moderators do not allow articles to be increased on town meeting floor, because the warrant gets published, people see it, and some might say, oh, that's okay, I'm not going. And if you increase it on town meeting floor, it's like, wait a minute, nobody told me it was gonna be 700,000, it's 300,000. And so the moderators, plural, going back to George Ball, which is back in the 60s, would not allow those kind of increases on the floor because you failed to warn the public about what it was. So other towns do it, Republic does it, they allow that to happen. I'm just saying historically what Dayton's done.
I would think that might be a tough one too, to hold off till 23, just because of the 2/3 people are leaving.
Mm-hmm.
You can change that.
Yes.
All
I guess you guys can dissolve the meeting.
Yeah, so the only other thing, and I do, we've got two appointments that really need to be taken care of fairly soon. One being the DR Finance Committee, which it is an advisory committee and it's not necessarily, probably, your voice is probably more heard here than it would be at the, but it is something that DR is trying to make the point of reaching out and having the communication. So
Yes,
it is.
and from, I am sharing that. From my perspective, it's a great tool for both the school superintendent and the finance committees in both towns to have that free and open conversation. This is what the towns can afford, or you can expect that we can afford, and your budget has to reflect that. Again, we do have some big assessments coming up with BP and Bristol Aggie. And education funding is the biggest part of each town's budget. So
Yeah, it's roughly 40% of our budget, so it is
substantial.
particularly maybe somebody with children in school, that might be a good position for.
We need 2.
So it's Sue and
I
then we
need
need
one
one
more.
more.
And realistically, we will probably meet 4 times throughout the year.
More than likely before we meet, right?
Well, yes, our next meeting, we're hoping to be sometime in January, as they start getting their preliminary numbers in for their budgets, then at least we can talk numbers. I mean, until you have something in front of you that you can work with and work from, it's very hard just to speak your ideas. I mean, you're not getting at accomplishing anything, really. A big problem at our high school is our population has been dropping the last 7 years. So we are trying to build, the superintendent has some strategies for trying to build that back up. In the past, I hope you don't mind me going into this now. In the past, access to our students in the middle school has been very generous for BP and Bristol Plum. Now, the superintendent is taking the approach that we are supplying with the students' information, the names, addresses, that they legally have to do. But we're not putting out the red carpet anymore for these schools. They can do their own advertising on their time. Right now, the superintendent is setting up school visits for both middle schools to the high school groups going to both middle schools, stressing the pros of our programs right here in town. We're trying to keep in educational funding, the money follows the student. So we've got to keep our students in town. That'd be the ideal.
Why are they leaving?
A lot of the BP has great programs, Bristol Aggie has great programs. The thing is, we have not been selling our district the last few years. We've got some great programs. We have a vocational technical program at the high school. So we have not been very strong on promoting our own science.
And just follow up on that. Some people have criticized the superintendent for closing the red carpet issue. Taunton did that nearly 10 years ago. Dr. Hackett started the same policy, so it's not just DR who did that.
Right. And they're looking into ways of getting more state money through different programs. If all our freshmen coming in to the high school do exploratory for their freshman year, we get more funding. So they are getting creative. They are looking where money is that we have not accessed it previously.
The Dayton students in DP has grown from roughly 25 to 125, and as that number increases, our percentage of the portion of the bond payment increases. So the more that we can keep here, we're gonna.
But we're paying for BP too.
We pay based on our percentage of students to the whole. So if our percentage drops, our bond payment drops.
So if we keep them home,
we
don't have to pay as much.
Not home, but
right,
a
in
DR,
town.
yeah.
Right.
Correct.
Unless you want to keep them home.
Our Chapter 70 reimbursement drops. Those that go to BP, it's a double hit. We pay the tuition, but our reimbursement from the state goes down because we have less students at the high school.
When is your next meeting, Sue?
We're hoping for June, when they start their preliminary,
January.
January.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Where they should have preliminary numbers.
Okay. And
They are starting their budget process now.
Capital outlay, just to give everybody a brief overview, and I'm sorry if I'm keeping you guys. It's okay. A few years back, Mike, did you establish?
No, that was the prior time I put in mail. It was reestablished in 2020.
Okay. So capital outlay committee is one member from the finance committee, and then a number of mostly members of the town department heads, and it really comes down to a list of things that the departments need between a fire truck, an ambulance, a police car, a building, HVAC system in here, and each item gets scored and then prioritized. So then that committee brings that report to the finance committee as part of when we get to the articles for annual town meeting, the priorities, what needs to be funded and what can be pushed off between us and the selectmen as far as what's moved, what can wait, what can't wait.
So that's the other one you
That's
have
the other one that will need somebody.
And that's called capital outlay.
Capital outlay. That would meet in January?
Yes.
So that would also meet in January.
Is that somebody who's an existing FinCom member, or can it be another
Yeah, from
person?
the bylaw, it has to be a current FinCom member?
Yes.
I don't know if we're gonna have a need, but a lot of times we'll have a meeting, a FinCom meeting right before a town meeting. So we can schedule a FinCom meeting for just prior to special town meeting. And if I could get one name for each position, we can nominate them, get those people on board and move forward from there. And and then we'll be good to go. Those are the last two open positions that FinCom has representation in. Any questions on any of that? Special town meeting will end up starting at
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
October 30th.
So we plan on 6:30 meeting?
Yeah, 6:30 would work with that.
So we'll plan on a FinCom meeting for 6:30 on the 30th. If no other questions or anything from FinCom, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
So that October 30th meeting is at what time?
6:30.
And if anybody has any questions as far as this DR advisory, give me a buzz.
And it's at the high school.
The 30th meeting?
Yes.
I make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Did we have number 18? Did we?
18 is not a.
Not financial.
It's not, so that was the end of the financial.
All right, I have nothing for that.
So we got a motion and a second to dissolve. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good work, guys.
A lot of work.
Where are we at?
I like that question.
So I just emailed that to you.
We have heard this evening, FinCom give their recommendation.
Yes.
We have not taken a formal vote
Yes.
on our recommendations, or is it implied by us voting to accept them as we are recommending?
So if I was the board has this, historically made their own recommendations.
Correct.
Yes. So yeah, so if the board also, if there's any articles that the board disagrees with the FinCom recommendation, we can discuss that now. But also too, we do, have to have recommendations on Article 20 and 20, Articles 21, I'm sorry, Articles 20, 21, and 22 as well. So like whatever order that we want to go in to finish, get the rest of the warrant up, and then if we want to come back to the financial articles.
Sure, let's finish up the warrant.
Okay.
I do have a question. In light of my concerns about a large amount of money being carried over to free cash, and knowing quite well what happens to free cash come, whether it be now or in June. We are going to have departments that will not spend all their money come June, and that surplus cash that we're carrying over till June, based on the decisions made tonight, will probably get larger. And if I'm a department head, and I know that there's $739,000 to begin with the potential for more come the regular town meeting, I'm gonna come looking.
Yeah, but it's up to the selectmen to stop that. I have no issues with there being more funds and people coming with presenting articles, but the selectmen are the ones who say yes or no. It doesn't matter what they look for, George, just because there's more money there, doesn't give them the ability to get something. The selectmen would vote yea or nay based on what we feel we should spend. And at that point, we could put money into stabilization or
Capital
capital stabilization. This is basically a placeholder for June's meeting.
Right. I'm just,
Yeah, I know, when they see
It's
the
a
dollar
real
signs, they think we can spend.
correct.
I don't know, we don't know how much free cash will be there come that town meeting. There might not be any, like we've talked about before, it drying up pretty quick.
So,
Sorry, Serena,
No,
we could say the same
so-
thing.
the free cash amount between now and June isn't gonna change. It's
This is
seven
it.
thirty-nine.
Right, I'm
Yeah.
sorry,
Okay, yeah.
yes.
But it could get larger.
No.
Not this year, no. Cause I'm not gonna close the books until next September, and then we'll get a new free cash amount. So between now and the end of this fiscal year, this
This is it.
the only free cash that we have.
That'll be available,
Correct,
no additional.
No.
correct. No additional.
Okay. So the fiscal year is different for free cash? July 1 is our new fiscal year, correct?
Correct.
But not in regards to free cash.
So when I got this free cash total, it was based on closing the books from FY '23.
Right. Which would be June 30th?
Yes.
Okay. So this number won't go up,
No. It never does.
but it could go down?
No, it can't change at all.
Can't change it all?
Correct. Just the future free cash, I am anticipating,
For a year from now.
yes, when I close the books for FY '24,
Right.
I'm anticipating that the next certification round of free cash will be less. And then if, the articles that come up in June say we still have, 200,000, we can just leave that in free cash and let that roll into next year's
Oh, so
free
that
cash.
rolls in.
It just continues,
Okay.
yeah. So you don't have to put all of it somewhere, whatever's left will just help us next year.
Okay.
It's all it just sits in the unreserves. On the books, it's the unreserved fund.
With tough times coming. I advocated for an increase in Article 10. And I still feel that we should try to show the taxpayers that we feel they're paying. And
We can vote to amend it on the floor.
we recommend 300 or 350.
At the end of the day, because we are funding the FY '23 snow and ice deficit at the amount of 46,000. That also has the effect of increasing the free cash funding that we're reducing the tax rate with, up to $296,000. So we're basically already at the $300,000 number already.
Okay. So with 739,000 plus in free cash, so 350 is not out of the question.
It isn't, but there are also other potential projects on the horizon as well. You mentioned the MSBA earlier, and if the town is voted and actually accepted into a process by the MSBA, we would have to propose to the voters a feasibility study, and if we don't have funding and a holdback there, and say hypothetically if we were like if we were to increase the funding that we're reducing the tax rate by, when, when it actually comes time to asking the voters whether they actually want to fund a feasibility study, we have to have the funds in hand. Like in terms of what that effort would actually cost.
But we also already have 1.4 or 1.5 million
Yes, we
in
do.
capital stabilization.
But I also have a hunch that that if we do have to utilize that and actually like ask the voters whether or not they want to actually fund a feasibility study, I have a hunch that the cost of a feasibility study is more than that. So we have to have, so we would have to have additional funding in a holdback to be able to even propose that. And if we don't have that in a holdback because we've reduced the tax rate by it, then we would have an issue because we wouldn't have that funding in hand.
And wasn't it mentioned that increasing this number is gonna make little to no difference seen by the taxpayer? But they're gonna see a difference.
Would have
when
a
we
very
vote.
small difference, but
Yes.
if we don't have the ability to fund a feasibility study.
They're gonna see that difference, and this gesture is gonna be lost.
Agreed.
And we've talked about a $2 million feasibility study. I understand $1 million will come back.
Yeah.
But
and
it's still come up with the $2 million first.
The MSBA would, they would have us upfront that funding.
Right. And Lenny, you said the list goes down to 8. What's it go down after that?
Well, it depends. Governor Haley increased the SBA to $400 million. So then what will happen will be is those 8 would be on the sharp track, depending on, they'll rank them. So how quickly they get to number 8 or whatever place we get will depend. There's no, if you're 8th, you're not getting it this year, next year.
Right.
But if you're in the top 8, you better start working,
Okay.
because either 2 or 3 years from now, it's gonna be your turn. And you're locked in. Is it for 3? How many years are they locked in on the list?
I don't have any idea, to be honest with you. I'd be speculating if
I know it's at least 2. But the planning phase, just the feasibility phase, that's gonna take a year. So if you're 2 years, even 2 years away, that's short time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I just think back to the feasibility study for the fire station was controversial.
Still is.
Imagine saying we need $2 million for a school that might not get built.
Ultimately, it'll be up to the taxpayers, that's right. They could, they could vote no. I don't know what we would do.
Yep. Okay.
So, do you think we have to come back to Article 20?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would be the board's input on the proposed town budget bylaw.
Could we just make a motion as read, as presented?
To recommend as presented, that is more than fine.
Okay, thank you.
If that is a desire.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Selectmen give a favorable recommendation to Article 20 as read, as presented, I'm sorry.
Second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Karen's an aye.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Selectmen give a favorable recommendation to Article 21 as presented.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Karen's an aye.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Selectmen give a favorable recommendation to Article 22 as presented.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Karen's an aye.
And then
23
we
is,
come back to the question of whether the board agrees with the FinCom on Articles 2 through Articles,
17.
17.
No, I have no issues with what we discussed. I mean, we went live with our opinions while they were here.
Right.
Yeah, I don't foresee any.
That's what,
changes.
2 to 17?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Selectmen give a favorable recommendation to Articles 2 through 17 as presented and discussed this evening.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Karen's an aye. Lenny, earlier you said you wanted to discuss Article 23. Was it what you had brought up earlier? Is that what you
Well,
talked
yes,
about?
that's,
Okay.
we've already discussed.
Okay. Moving on to approval of the warrants.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. The Town of Dayton pay warrants for October 5th, 2023. Article 15A-24, $120,450.14. Article 15B-24, $68,759.74.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Peter Karen's aye.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the Town of Dayton pay the warrants for October 12th, 2023. Article 16A-24, $125,979.72. Article 16B-24, $137,825.53.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Peter Karen's an aye. Any correspondence?
No.
Minutes, approval for Board of Selectmen special meeting, minutes of August 25th, 2023.
Mr. Chairman,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I thought I'd give you a throat a break.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Board of Selectmen special minute meetings of August 25th, 2023.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Peter Karen's an aye.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Board of Selectmen's department head meeting minutes of September 6th, 2023.
Any discussion? Oh, you got a second.
Second.
I'm sorry. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Peter Karen's an aye.
And finally, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Board of Selectmen regular meeting minutes of September 27th, 2023.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Peter Karen's an aye. Any public input?
No, I got nothing.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we adjourn.
Yep.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Peter Karen's an aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.